4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome in on what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X, where I am not leaving either one of those fine websites, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We'll do a lot of UFC today. Chris Weidman's going to join us coming up 40 minutes from now, and then in studio, expected at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, a buddy of ours, the Steamroller, Matt Frevola, with UFC 309 making its way to Madison Square Garden on Saturday night. I will be in the building for John Jones up against Stipe Miocic. You also see Michael Chandler make his return to the octagon after Conor McGregor was acting like a putty cat and would not end up agreeing, or did agree and then wouldn't end up being able to get into the octagon. And it was excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. And eventually Michael Chandler said, okay, I'm going to scoop my pride up and go on to the next opponent. I do not think we'll ever see McGregor back in the octagon. I have said that before. I have said for the last 2 years, even if they have a fight announced, and even if we have a date, and even if we are like a month away, I will actually believe that Conor McGregor will get back into the octagon when we see the bell get rung, and there we go when we start the fight with whoever would be his future opponent. So we'll talk to Chris Weidman coming up in 40 minutes from now, and then at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, Matt Frevola. Let me get to a little bit on the NFL. We do start Week 11 tonight. I think it is a game where it's very fascinating. I don't know why. Commanders-Eagles should have a lot bigger buzz than where I think we're at nationally. And I don't know if there's maybe some skepticism on both sides that prevents that buzz from occurring, because this is Week 11 at this point. You got a 7-3 Commanders team. I know they're coming off a loss to the Steelers, but it wasn't a horrible loss. Like, there's no shame in losing to the Steelers, and the Commanders have been one of the breakout, fun, intriguing, shocking stories of the NFL this year, and it's all centered around the excellent play of their young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And then on the flip side, maybe this is why the buzz is not so great for this one, and I do think it's going to be a fun football game. I think there's going to be a lot of points tonight, because I don't love either of these defenses, if I'm being honest. And I think both of these offenses have pieces with Hurts and Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And then obviously on the other side, it looks like Brian Robinson Jr. is going to play tonight. You obviously start with the Commanders with Jaden Daniels, Austin Eckler. You know what? I got to look at what the anytime touchdowns are. I feel like whenever there's a primetime game, Austin Eckler always finds a way into the end zone and usually finds 2 touchdowns. So I may sprinkle a little action on this game tonight on an anytime touchdown or 2 touchdowns with Austin Eckler. I'll check what the odds are during the break, and you got Terry McLaurin as well. So there's some good names on the offensive side of the ball. I do believe that there's going to be a lot of points in this one tonight, and we'll see how close of a game it is. I do think this will be a game in the fourth quarter, and eventually the Eagles will pull away and they will win the game. But I do think why the hype may not be there for this one in terms of nationally. Like last week, hey, we kicked it off with Ravens and Bengals, and it was like, oh, big game, oh, marquee event. You know, there was a lot of buildup for that one. Tonight, I was like, I knew what the game was, but it's almost like, hey, I got to check what the schedule is to make sure that it is Eagles and Commanders, because it does not feel as if we're having Eagles and Commanders tonight, where with the way that people are talking about it, or the lack of people talking about it. But I think a big reason because of that is, yes, the Eagles are on a 5-game winning streak. Yes, the Eagles are 7-2. But we all kind of look at the Eagles a little sideways. And we go, yeah, they're 7-2. They were also 10-1 last year. And their coach is still the same coach. And a lot of us just simply, including myself, do not believe that Nick Sirianni is the right guy for the job. And a lot of people think that the Eagles would have been viewed a lot more seriously if they had a Bill Belichick, if they had Mike Vrabel, or even if they had Ben Johnson or Jim Harbaugh, you know, all the names that were available last offseason. So when I look at both sides tonight, I do believe there's a ton of pressure on Nick Sirianni tonight, because it could go really one of three ways. If the Eagles lose, you don't even need to tell me how they lose. Everyone is going to crush Nick Sirianni tomorrow. So that's one way. The Eagles could also win, and you still won't feel good about the head coach. Like if you go back to a game a few weeks ago against Jacksonville where they were up 22-0, and then he passed up on 2 field goals, passed up on 3 extra points, and he left 9 points off the board. It was one of those spots where, yes, the Eagles won, but it doesn't restore confidence in the head football coach, Nick Sirianni. So that could happen where the Eagles win and you still don't feel great about him. And then also, obviously, if the Eagles lose, you're going to feel down in the dumps about Sirianni. But then there's that other avenue. And maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because we've seen before in the career of Nick Sirianni, when he first got to Philadelphia, everyone was like, who the bleep is this guy? And then he had his first press conference, and you'll never forget, right, the Adam Gase Wandering Eyes kind of press conference. Sirianni sounded even worse at the podium than Adam Gase did. And then in year one, it got off to an ugly start. He had that flower analogy, but then he took a football team that, quite frankly, had no business being in the playoffs, and he got them into the wild card round where they ended up losing. So that was year one. Then year two, they made that run that no one thought was going to be capable of before the season started, where they were the best team in the NFC and one of the best teams in football, and they got to a Super Bowl. But then last year was the real damaging year. And last year was a 10-1 start where they were leaking. They were showing signs of weakness. And then down the stretch, they won 1 game. And this year, yes, the record looks really good with Nick Sirianni, but they are 7-2, and they really haven't had a moment this year where when you look at the Eagles, you go, okay, this is the Eagles team outside of maybe the Packers in week 1. You know, that was a good victory for them. But outside of that, and maybe a little bit of the second half effort up against Cincinnati, and Cincinnati has their own flaws, there hasn't really been that great moment this year for the Eagles. You know, you look at the Atlanta game. I was there. I can't still believe that they lost that. You know, they barely beat the Saints by 3. They lost to Tampa Bay. I know they were banged up. They didn't look all that great up against Cleveland. And Sirianni acted like a jackass after the game, going back and forth with the fans. So you smashed the Giants 28-3, whatever. You know, the second half, Cincinnati, impressive. The Jacksonville game, no bueno, even though that was a win. And last week, give them credit, they smashed the football team and the Dallas Cowboys. That's an inferior football team. When you're a superior football team, you don't want to play with your food. You want to go on out there and just devour that, and that's what they ended up doing with the Dallas Cowboys. But tonight is so important for Sirianni, where if there's a moment, and I know it's going to be tough in the regular season, and maybe there's only one other spot on the schedule where he could really display that he's moving this team in the right direction. But in an isolated spot tonight, primetime game, Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Thursday night, Amazon Prime, this is a moment for Nick Sirianni to say, guys, have a little confidence in me. Have a little trust in me. And I'm not saying he's going to win everyone over tonight, but maybe you could win a minuscule amount of people back over. Because if you're 8-2, and I get it, you could say, hey, Zach, they were 10-1 last year. How did that work out? But if you get to 8-2, especially in a year where we have not seen many great teams in the NFL, and I think the 2 best teams are the Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. But after that, you know, I like Buffalo. I like the Ravens. You know, you could like Philadelphia. You know, but a lot of these teams that even have records that indicate and suggest that they're Super Bowl contenders, there's a lot of yeah, but. For example, like even the Lions and the Chiefs get it. But if you take those 2 teams out of there, you go the Bills, yeah, but we've seen this story before. You look at the Ravens, yeah, but we've seen Lamar Jackson come up small before in the postseason. The Steelers, yeah, but they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. There's a lot of yeah, buts in the NFL right now. And the Eagles are one of those teams. Yeah, they're 7-2. Even if they win tonight, 8-2. Yeah, but does anyone really trust this stunad in Nick Sirianni? Like, that's going to be a thing that's going to be said. So when I look at both these teams, sure, you could tell me a redemption spot for the Commanders tonight. After the loss to the Steelers, you want to prove that that's not going to derail their season. But even if the Commanders lose tonight, I don't think we're getting on the air tomorrow and we're crushing the Commanders and saying they're fraudulent. I don't. Like, you look at the Commanders' schedule, even if they lose tonight and they're 7-4, and they suffer their first losing streak of the season, back-to-back games, their schedule the rest of the way, Cowboys, Titans, Saints, Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys. Like, you look at that schedule the rest of the way, they should win out of those 6 games, every game but maybe the Eagles and the Falcons. So if you take 4 out of 6, you're going to have 11 wins. So if the Commanders are definitely going to the postseason. The Commanders in this stretch of Eagles, Cowboys, Titans, Saints, Eagles, Falcons, and Cowboys, they will find a way, even if they're not playing pretty, to win 3 more games, get to 10-7 at the worst case scenario, and make the postseason. So I don't think there's this great panic tonight with the Commanders, even if they get blown out. But where the biggest question is in this one, and I think the person under the most pressure, it's not Hurts, it's not Jaden Daniels, it's not Dan Quinn, it's not A.J. Brown, it's not Vic Fangio, it's not Cliff Kingsbury, but it really is Nick Sirianni. And I'll also tell you this, when we look at takes, I do really think there's 3 takes, Stu, that could emerge here from tomorrow. And I'm just curious tonight, when we're talking about this tomorrow. Take number 1 is, how are we talking about Sirianni? And if we're talking about Sirianni in a positive way, it's going to be, okay, we got to look at the Eagles as a Super Bowl contender. If we're talking about Sirianni in a negative way, it's going to be the same old. Yeah, the Eagles have a good record, but they're not that great. Take number 2 is going to be, hey, the Commanders with Jaden Daniels, they could go win this division, and they will win this division, right, if they win this game tonight. Because even up to this point, where people thought the Commanders could win this division, they haven't played the Eagles yet. We know the Eagles are their most legit competition in the NFC East because the Giants stink and the Cowboys stink. But here's another take out there, Stu. And I'll just float it out there. Because probably this guy should stay as an offensive coordinator. But if the Commanders look like rock stars tonight offensively, and we look at the Bears, and even though I could sit here and I could say, hey, Chicago should have either Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, or Bill Belichick coaching their team next season. But when you expect the Bears to do something, usually the unexpected happens. So let's just say Cliff Kingsbury has this dominant performance tonight as the offensive play caller for the Washington Commanders. Can you start to make the case for Cliff Kingsbury, who would be a retread coach at this point, head coach? I know he was in college too. And with the Cardinals, they would always have good starts but miserable finishes. Can we potentially see next year the case start to be made tonight for Cliff Kingsbury to be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears? And there's already a relationship there with Caleb Williams. And a lot of people thought Kingsbury was going to be the OC. You look at the Bears and the Raiders, we thought Kingsbury was going one of those 2 places. Waldron and Getsy are both out. So I think that's on the table tonight, where it's a welcome back into the spotlight moment for Cliff Kingsbury to potentially latch on to a head coaching job sooner than what we could have expected. It would be a pretty damn good destination, where now we got to see if you could actually work with a good relationship with Caleb Williams, where you had a good relationship to start with Kyler Murray, and then that relationship got derailed. So what do you think the biggest takeaway is tomorrow, Stu? Because those are the 3 takes out there. It's a Sirianni factor, it's the Jaden Daniels factor, and then it's also Cliff Kingsbury. Tomorrow, when we are talking about this game, what do you think, with how the game plays out, what the biggest takeaway is going to be, in your opinion?
I think it's going to be the Sirianni angle of it. I could see it being the Cliff Kingsbury one, but I think Sirianni, especially if they do not impress, because this is going to be one of the tougher opponents they've had in a while. Dallas without Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. Look, I mean, I don't know how impressive that is. They won by a lot, but that's still not an amazing opponent. Yeah. This is a team that can legitimately beat the Eagles and maybe win by like 10 points. And if that's the case, I think all the attention is going to go back to Sirianni and he's not the guy, and this team isn't good enough to compete in the NFC.
If I have one wish tonight, one wish on this game, I want this game to be 30-27 with 2 minutes to go. 30-27 Commanders. Hurts gets the ball at, let's say, the 30-yard line. and you got 2 minutes to go. Hurts with the ball. He's matriculating the ball down the field, and he gets into field goal range, right? Because you only need a field goal to get the game to overtime. And I would love to see, I don't know, at about the 28-yard line, it be 4th and 2, and you got to get to the 26. And does Sirianni elect to take the field goal, or does he elect to go for it to try to eventually move the ball down the field even more and then get the ball in the end zone? I want to see Nick Sirianni have to make a big cojones decision tonight in terms of a 4th down scenario late at home at the Link where he bypasses another Jake Elliott field goal attempt. And it may work out. It may not work out. I'm not saying what my wish would be for it to happen. I just want to see that scenario be there. Because it could go one of two ways. It could be a huge middle finger moment for Nick Sirianni, and I almost gave the middle finger on the YouTube stream, which would not have been good, which I think everyone would be fine with that, honestly. But you could have a huge middle finger moment, or it goes the other way where everyone's giving the middle finger to Nick Sirianni from the stands. So that's what I want to see tonight. I want a late, high-scoring game. Commanders get the lead. Down by 3 is Philadelphia, and then you get a pivotal 4th down decision by Nick Sirianni. What do you look for the most tonight in this one between the Eagles and the Commanders? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. We talk about these jobs that are potentially open up in the NFL. Usually college coaches making the jump to the NFL doesn't all go that well. I know people would say, what about Harbaugh right now? Well, he has the background of college and the NFL, and he's been successful at both. So I feel like when we talk about college coaches going to the NFL, it's a little bit of a different conversation with Harbaugh with what he's just done right now with the Chargers. But you look at the two latest incidents and recent examples, it was really how we talk about it, Matt Rule and Urban Meyer, and those didn't go well. Well, there is a name of a very successful college head coach right now who could win the national championship this season. And it was floated out there today and a little bit last night as well about this guy potentially making the jump to the NFL, or at least there's going to be interest from those teams. We'll get to that prominent name in the coaching circle next in college that could be going to the NFL next when we return in 5 minutes right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks could be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields, Guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Stu, I don't know about you. Are you a big Friendsgiving guy? I feel like that's always a big time of the year, beginning this weekend, whether you do it a week or two before Thanksgiving or a weekend after Thanksgiving, where you get together with all your friends and you have a little Friendsgiving.
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been to a few, but I'm definitely not someone who wants to host one, and it just depends if other people want to do it, I guess.
So I am hosting a Friendsgiving this Sunday, and one of my buddies called me up, and he goes, he knew I was going to send out this text to my friends, and he goes, hey, just a quick question. And I go, all right, what's the question? He goes, are significant others invited? And I paused for a second, and I said to him, no, I just thought that it would be, our high school friends getting together, do what men do best. And that's sit on the couch, eat a bunch of food, place bets, maybe enjoy a few drinks, a few puffs of something, and watch football. And he goes, that was the same page that I was on as well. He goes, I think you should make that clear, though, when you send out the text, because some other friends may think that this is like a significant other type of thing. Which I have no problem, like many of my friends' significant others. So I sent out the text and said, hey, we're doing a guy's day at my apartment. And that was pretty much, tone was said. Everyone got their approval from their significant other because that's how it goes now. And I'm going to be having like 7, 8 of my buddies over on a Sunday for a little college football. So I'm going to get some chips and salsa, some chips and queso. I will get pigs in the blanket. And then I put together a poll question today. This was the poll question that I put to my friends. What do we want to do for food? And I listed out 3 options. I said we could get wings from Wogie's, wings and cheesesteaks. I said we could get La Industry Pizza, which is tremendous pizza, right? Stu, you like La Industry Pizza?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then I said we could also do dank Italian sandwiches from this place, Bacillo's, which I recommended to Colleen Wolfe when she was staying in the financial district from the NFL Network when Good Morning Football used to air there, and she texted me saying it was one of the greatest sandwiches that she's ever had. So I put together a poll, and what do you think the runaway answer was? Wings and cheesesteaks, La Industry Pizza, or the dank Italiano sandwiches?
I would say the wings and cheesesteaks probably won.
Wasn't even close, yeah.
Yeah.
It was wings and cheesesteaks. Everyone voted for wings and cheesesteaks. And then one of my friends said, you know what, I'll have a little voter fraud here. Had to, of course, make a weasel political comment. He goes, I will vote for pizza. I know they didn't ask for my ID at the poll. So that was our little group chat today. So we're going to be doing big wings and pizza coming up, or wings and cheesesteaks, I should say, coming up at the Palatial Gelb Estate on Sunday. So should be a fun time. I saw this report yesterday from Jeremy Fowler. Dan Lanning is generating a lot of buzz bzz, in NFL circles per Jeremy Fowler. Now, I don't know about you, Stu, and I love Lanning. We got to get Lanning back on the show soon. We had him on in the offseason. I've had him on a bunch last year. And I said this to Dan Lanning, and I said so respectfully to him. I said, Coach, I don't want you to get offended, but when you talk to your team, there's just like a certain passion that overtakes your body where you look like and you sound like a football psycho, and I love that in a football coach. But when I look at Dan Lanning, I'm not saying he can't coach in the NFL, Stu, but I think he's best fit in college. Sometimes like that rah-rah, I'm the leader, everyone buy into my message, doesn't resonate with grown men in the NFL. And it's an easier lifestyle now to be an NFL head coach. But if I'm Dan Lanning, I am not leaving Oregon right now. You have them humming. You're the number one team in the country. You know, maybe if he wins the national championship, does that change the equation? But like the national championship game is going to be sometime in I think it's middle of January. I think it's like January 21st or something like that. So our NFL team's going to wait that long, especially if you're on that run. I don't know. I think teams are interested because always a name gets floated out there. And you know how this usually works. The insiders talking to these teams. You know, give me a name in college that's just generating some buzz. And everyone's going to say, hey, you know, Deion. Give me a name that's not Deion. And Dan Lanning is a name that kind of makes sense. But I think he would be insane to leave Oregon right now, Stu. I don't think we're going to see Dan Lanning on an NFL sideline. Maybe in 5-6 years, but I don't think it's going to happen next year.
It just doesn't make sense right now, especially with how good that program is doing, you know, first year in the Big Ten, and they're kind of dominating that. And just there's just a certain profile that you think of when you think of a college coach going to NFL. I kind of agree. I think he's more of a college coach than an NFL coach. So
let me ask you this then, because it got me thinking. Now with Harbaugh no longer there, Saban out of the game, we knew Saban was never going back to the NFL. Urban Meyer now out. Matt Rule already making the jump, and obviously it didn't work with the Carolina Panthers, and now he's back at Nebraska. I was trying to think about names like the former Stanford coach, David Shaw, was always speculated, and he's no longer at Stanford. There was always names that were thrown out there that were the last 4, 5, 6 years that were easy names. But with how many coaches have left the sport for whatever reasons, it's like, who are the 3 names right now that if you had to think could potentially get an NFL job that's a college coach right now, who would those 3 names be? So I told Stu I was going to ask him this, and I put 3 names down on the list on my computer right in front of me. I'm curious if you could guess the 3 names. Okay. I think one is fairly obvious. The other one, if you use your brain a little bit, you could get it, but you may not expect it from me. And the third one, I would be shocked. Absolutely shocked if you end up getting this, because I don't know how many people are actually on this guy's radar, but the more you think about it, it could make sense. So give me your first guess.
All right, what about Sarkisian? What about if he does great at Texas, wins a national title or 2, he eventually makes his way to the NFL? You know what? I have not even contemplated Steve Sarkisian. I haven't whatsoever. Now, he has an NFL background as well when he was with the Atlanta Falcons as their offensive coordinator shortly. I did not anticipate, and he was also with the Raiders too, early 2000s as a quarterback coach, I think. I did not anticipate Sark
I think he's just a college coach, and you're at Texas. That's a tough job to leave. So I do not anticipate Sark. Sark was not on my list, but that's a good guess, though.
Okay, what about Josh Heupel, Tennessee? The quarterback. He played quarterback. I think he played a couple years in the NFL, but he's obviously a good mind that I think could make that transition.
Heupel was not on my list, but that's not a bad guess. I think he's in a good spot, though, at 10. That's a lot of pressure. Now, he's done a really good job there. You had the quarterback from a few years ago where he had some success, and they were 11-2 then before he got hurt. And now you've kind of restored that once again with how young Nico Iamaleava is. And assuming he stays there, I don't see why he would leave, but you never know this day and age. I don't think Heupel's going anywhere anytime soon. But I'll give you credit. Those are two good guesses. I did not contemplate either of those two. Now, who's the last one?
My last one is a guy who has had some struggles, actually, recently. So I don't know how hot of a name he is, but he's really the first guy I always think of with these conversations just because of the quarterback development, and that is for me Lincoln Riley.
Okay. I contemplated stinking Lincoln. Someone commented that to me on my Clay Matthews video, and Clay Matthews said he'd like to see a little bit more grit from USC, stinking Lincoln. And I was like, I kind of like that, even though I believe Lincoln Riley is overrated. I don't think he's stinking Lincoln. I just don't think he's God's gift like everyone else thinks he is. That's a name 2 years ago that everyone would have said the moment he wants an NFL job, just say it, and boom, in a snap of a finger, you would get it. But he was not on my list. So you had Heupel, you had Sark, and you had stinking Lincoln Riley. The three names I had, I think the fairly obvious one is Deion Sanders. Now, I don't believe Deion Sanders is going to leave Colorado for an NFL job. I think if he's leaving Colorado, it would be for another college job. But his name will always be speculated. Here is the name, Stu, that I think I said you have to use your brain a little bit. You wouldn't expect it from me. Let me be abundantly clear. I do not think this guy would be a good hire as a NFL head coach. But it's about who could I see be getting that opportunity. We go from stinking Lincoln to crying Day. Ryan Day was on Chip Kelly's staff in Philadelphia, in San Francisco. Like, he's had an NFL background. Now, if he does this, we got a tough team crap. And, we got a tough team. I got to tell you we're tough, and we got to make fun of Sweet Lou Holtz. If he does that stuff, I think guys will just run right through Ryan Day in that locker room in the NFL. But I could see an NFL team and maybe Ryan Day, like let's say they lose in the championship game this year, and he's like, okay, I beat Michigan, I lost in the championship game. It's a soft kind of way for me to leave, but it's not as if there's as much animosity as what it was before going into this year. So it wouldn't shock me if Ryan Day eventually makes a jump to the NFL. And I'm being clear, I don't think Deion would be great in the NFL. I don't think Ryan Day would be great in the NFL. But this is the shocking one. And this guy, it's crazy he's only 48 years old because I think he's so much older and he's had so many jobs and he's bounced around from NFL to college and NFL and college. What about Jed Fish? Like, I look at Jed Fish. He is someone that it would not shock me if he ends up becoming an NFL head coach one day. It's just one of those names with the relationship with Belichick. I think he's worked for McVay as well. And he's always going to be good. He's always going to be solid in college. Had a really good job with Arizona. And right now with Washington that didn't have high expectations, he's been above 500 in his first year. That's a guy that I could see him just saying, bleep this NIL stuff. I'm ready to go to the NFL. And he has enough relationships with the NFL where I do think there would be some interest. So I think those three names are the names to watch. I don't think it's Dan Lanning. I think it's Coach Prime and Ryan Day. And I don't think either of them are going to the NFL necessarily. But if there's one name that I put a little money on to go to the NFL, it would be Jed Fish, maybe in 2 years from now. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. This portion of the show was brought to you by the new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid that has class-leading advanced safety features like the available blind spot view monitor to make your ride more enjoyable. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, UFC coming back to Madison Square Garden on Saturday. I'll be in the building for that. Chris Weidman is on the card, and he's going to join us on the other side. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Progressive, who's proud to support veterans and small businesses with their annual Keys to Progress vehicle giveaway program, helping our heroes drive their lives forward. Learn more at keystoprogress.com. November is the month where the contenders in the NFL are usually established. There are two right now in the NFC East and will meet tonight as the Eagles host the Commanders to kick off Week 10. Jaden Daniels has led a surprising resurgence in Washington. The Commanders are 7-3. A win tonight would match their best start since 1996. The Eagles come in at 7-2 after routing the Cowboys Sunday. Head coach Nick Sirianni said his team is in a good place, but could always be better.
That feel that when you're around the team, it's something that I can't really explain. It's just, hey, this is how it feels. And I feel like we're continuing to come together as a football team. We can continue to get better at this, just like we can continue to get better at our details and our physicality.
Saquon Barkley, a big reason for the Eagles' success, needs only 9 yards to reach 1,000 for the season. The Rays will play this year at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, the spring home of the Yankees, as well as one of their minor league affiliates. The Rays were forced to vacate Tropicana Field after Hurricane Milton tore through the roof of the stadium. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Alrighty, rock and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. Can't wait to get to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, Saturday night. You will be seeing Chris Weidman go up against Eric Anders, and Chris Weidman's kind enough to join us right now. Chris, appreciate the time. How you been?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic. So I'm from Dix Hills, Comac area in Suffolk County. I know you're a Baldwin guy, so
Yeah, but I don't know if you know this, though. I moved to Dix Hills. I lived there for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
I lived off exit 51 in one of my houses. Then I lived off exit 52 on Comac Road.
no, how about that?
Yeah, man. Did you go to Comac or where'd you
I
go?
went to Comac High School. I was right on the cut line, but I ended up going to Comac High School.
Awesome, man. Hell yeah. I lived on Kinsella Street and I lived on Lambview Drive.
No.
I don't know if you know any of those. Right off, what's that, Vanderbilt Parkway or something? Is that
Yeah.
Vanderbilt?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So are you a big Menino's guy? Have you had an Italian meal at Menino's, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. I like that. La Scala's I like a lot.
Yeah.
I like La Scala's probably the best, to be honest.
Good buffalo chicken slice there, and the garlic knots are very good there.
Yes, they got good specialty slices. And I like their pasta too, actually. I would eat in the actual restaurant portion too. You know what I really like that I kind of miss is there's an Afghanistanian place on Jericho Turnpike. Right. Oh my God, that place is so good. You gotta check that place out. It's so good.
I'll definitely check it out. But what I was
Yeah.
going to say was, obviously being a New Yorker, you grew up going to the Garden all the time. I know this isn't your first rodeo of fighting there, but is it still surreal to have a fight coming up on Saturday at the Garden?
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's the most historic place, in the world, the most historic arena, I think, in the world. And so to be able to have the opportunity to fight there, especially being from here, is really cool. I mean, I grew up in Baldwin, and I lived right by the train station. So I would take the train in the Long Island Railroad, into Penn Station, walk up, and with friends, like starting at middle school, which is kind of crazy. My parents weren't very strict, and we just be looking for girls and try to get girls' numbers and stuff like that. And so I have tons of memories, starting from there. And my uncle Jimmy lives in the city, so we would always come out and visit him. Yeah, so just tons of great memories out here. I'm an Islander fan, so I wasn't going to too many.
That's unfortunate.
Games. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks that you're a Rangers fan, I guess.
Well, maybe we'll have to go to a Ranger Islander game one of these days.
I'm such an Islander fan that they tried to get me to go to MSG on Tuesday to go to a Rangers game. But they're going to make me wear a Rangers jersey. I was like, I can't do it. I declined.
That's unbelievable. So
Yeah.
your journey has been awesome. I know you're 40 now. We all saw what happened in 2021 when you had the compound leg fracture. A lot of people would have just said, hey, that's it. I've had a great career. Why have you elected to continue on this journey?
I couldn't go out like that. I just was from the beginning. at first it was like I want to be able to walk again, play with my kids, and then that transpired into me like, I got to get back. I could do this, and it took a long time, and a lot of ups and downs, but I got back, and I feel so much better right now. I feel great, and it probably, in retrospect, it prolonged my career because having all that time off, during that time, I probably would have had a bunch of fights, and I probably would have felt fulfilled and be done already. But here I am at 40 years old, 30 surgeries, probably, dealing with that injury. I would say maybe the worst injury in the history of the sport, only compound fracture in the sport. And here I am, man. I think it just makes my story better and a little bit more inspirational for people. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to inspire people and just try to test myself the best I can and be the best version of myself. And it's not going to be that much longer that I'm fighting. So I'm just trying to not have any regrets and give 100% of myself to this before it's all said and done.
Now, I know that's something that always comes up. Will this be your last fight? Do you feel like getting ready to prepare for this one, that this is going to be the last time you're doing this?
No, I really don't. I kind of wish it was because it would be a cool way to go out at MSG, put the gloves down there after getting a great win. But I just feel like I still feel good. I still feel good. I still feel like I can compete with the best of them. In the practice room, going to all these younger guys, up and comers, and I still doing my thing and feel really dominant. But we'll see how I do under the lights, though. That's what it all comes down to, is how you perform when it matters. So if I'm not performing the way I want to, then it could be over. I'm not saying I don't think I'll put down the gloves no matter what this time, but it will give me a good idea of that I'm really close to the end.
Chris Weidman here with us. How tough is that when you start to think about retirement? Because I'm not saying you get complacent, but naturally your brain's going in one direction and you can't slip up at all, especially when you get into the octagon.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of gives me more peace. I realize that my life is not 100%. It's not going to be. I'm not going to be fighting forever. Like when you're in the thick of it, when you're like 30 years old, you don't feel like it's ever going to end. You can't imagine life afterwards. I can kind of imagine life afterwards now, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a peace. But as far as me preparing for a fight, it doesn't take away the motivation or the discipline and the good routines that you need to be in order to be prepared properly for a fight. I think I'm even maybe more motivated to be healthy and feel great going into a fight now, knowing that I don't have many left and I want to just give the best version of myself I can.
How do you reflect on this journey? Like with it coming towards an end, like what are some of the memories that come back and some of the things that you think of when you look back at all the work that's gone into it?
It's just it's been a crazy ride. I became an undefeated world champion. I never thought I would lose, and defended my belt 3 times against some legends of the sport. And then I had my first set of adversity, and it was just like one after the other of losses, and then trying to like figure out how to get out of that slump. And you learn a lot about yourself, and it's all just kind of a part of the journey, and it's all just. You kind of learn about yourself a lot. And I'm proud of everything I've accomplished and all the tough moments I put myself in. I've taken tons of fights on short notice and, taken fights really injured. And, a lot of times I was able to persevere even going through tons of adversity. And then as all the surgeries pile up, it just gives me a little bit more motivation to persevere.
I love the crap talk that you did to Daniel Cormier and everyone over the eye poke stuff. Just how much is that kind of motivation to prove something coming up on Saturday with some of the people that now doubt you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little annoying. I've never eye poked anybody in my life, and then that last fight, I freaking eye poked him like 4 times, I think. It just sucks. I wish the gloves were freaking curved so we don't have to worry about it. It's also when you fight a southpaw, which I fought tons of southpaws, you got to like stay on top of that like hand. His front hand, that's what you have to do. And so it opens up your fingers a little bit more. It's just annoying. I wish I didn't have to think about it, but I'm going to be definitely more cognizant of trying to not eye poke anybody this time. And it just sucks because I felt great in that last fight. It was my first time since I broke my leg that I was able to throw a kick, and not be afraid. So I overcame a lot, and it's just unfortunate that the eye poke thing was the thing that a lot of people focused on.
How about your opponent coming up? What stands out to you about Eric?
Big, strong, athletic guy who's tough. He's been around for a while. Southpaw again, who comes forward, big left hands. I just think I got a speed advantage on the feet, and technical advantage as well. And then on the ground and wrestling wise, I think I'm levels ahead.
Let me just ask you this, because I know Michael Chandler is going to fight on Saturday as well. A lot of us thought it was going to be up against McGregor, and then I kind of realized that fight was never going to happen. Do you think Conor's just done with fighting? Do you ever expect him to get back in the octagon?
I don't know. I think he'll definitely come back. I think he doesn't want to go out that way either. I can't imagine. I mean, the guy's pretty close to a billionaire. I can't imagine what he's really going through. But I think he probably misses being under the lights, being on the camera, and he had to have fun, with all of his trash talk and antics adding up to fights and how much attention and how much love he got. He probably misses that like crazy. So I'm sure he's coming back.
And then the last thing I'll ask you, we always have fun with this. Dana White is adamant that John Jones is the best pound for pound fighter on the planet. When you hear that, do you think that's an accurate statement? Do you agree with that?
I think for his body of work that he's accomplished, yeah. There's always, people will almost like the Barry Bonds and, McGuire, like they throw asterisks on because of steroid failures and stuff like that. So that's the curveball that's in there that, is kind of, it's always going to be back and forth on how you take that as a fan, if that matters to you or not. So, I mean, what he's accomplished, who he's beat, his resume is untouchable. It's unbelievable what he's accomplished.
Well, good luck coming up on Saturday. And next time you're on the island, I think you're in South Carolina now. I'll get you a slice at La Scala, all right?
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Are you still in Dix Hills?
I live in the city now, in the financial district. But my family's still there, my parents.
All right. Don't forget about the Long Islanders, all right?
100%. Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
All right, buddy. Take care.
There he is, Chris Weidman, here with us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I did see that Rome today, Jim Rome, the great Jim Rome, the legendary, the franchise Jim Rome, had on Dana White today. And Dana said that if John Jones wants to fight again after this upcoming fight that he has on Saturday against Stipe Miocic, it would have to be up against Tom Aspinall, where earlier in the week, John Jones said he had no interest in fighting Aspinall, and he wanted to maybe give the people what they want, or some of us, I think more of us casual UFC fans like me, the Alex Pereira fight. I think the more hardcore UFC fan that I at least know would like to rather see John Jones go up against Aspinall instead of John Jones go up against Alex Pereira. But I was falling into the camp of John Jones and Alex Pereira. But that's what the boss man in Dana White said, which just because he says it doesn't mean it'll end up happening. Dana once told me that you were going to have Khabib come back and fight, and he didn't think he was going to retire, and obviously that has never happened. By the way, we were talking earlier about college coaches that could make the jump to the NFL. I threw out Ryan Day, Deion Sanders, Shed Fish. Stu had Sark. Who else did you have, Stu? You had Sark and who else?
I had Lincoln? Sark, Lincoln Riley, and Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I got a good tweet here from Scotty C006 on Twitter. How about Lane Kiffin making a little NFL return? Been a long time, and I think Lane is mature, but you always wonder the emotional intelligence. That doesn't sound right, but the emotional intelligence of Lane Kiffin, to me, just seems like more of a college coach, but wouldn't shock me with what he's doing at Ole Miss right now if the NFL teams do come calling. What's the future of John Gruden? We get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, hour number 2 of our radio program. So I was trying to find a stat on how many times Austin Eckler has scored a touchdown in a primetime game. So I wasn't going to go back and research it myself. And all I tried to do was just do a quick Twitter search, Austin Eckler primetime, and see what comes up. And an old tweet of mine did come up, and it says, is there ever a primetime game where Austin Eckler doesn't score in? That was one of the first things that I saw come on up, and that was back on September 23rd, I guess, when he scored a touchdown. So I went on my gambling app, right? And I fired that bad boy up, and I looked at what the number was. Plus 200 tonight, Stu, for an Austin Eckler anytime touchdown. And I did put a few shekels down on Austin Eckler getting in the end zone tonight to open up what is already week 11 in the National Football League season, as you do have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders do battle in Philadelphia. Who do you like in the game tonight, by the way, Stuart?
I like the Commanders. I think they're going
to.
I do. I think they're going to come off of that loss against the Steelers and have a pretty nice performance. It's a close game, but I think they win.
So outside of that reasoning, why else do you like the Washington Commanders besides the bounce back factor? I think that's a fair thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust the Eagles as much as their record says. I don't know.
What a 7-2 team would usually be.
Yeah, they've been up on some pretty bad teams.
It's the Sirianni factor. You
Yeah.
just don't trust Nick Sirianni.
I don't.
Which is fair. I think the Eagles win tonight. I do. I don't like the spread in this game being 4 points. My favorite bet, as I just said, Austin Eckler anytime touchdown. I think we're getting some points in this one tonight. If I had to make one play in terms of the spread or the over-under, I would hit the over of 49.5. I think we are getting a good amount of points in this game tonight. I could see this game being, 28-24 as a bare minimum, maybe even a little higher than that. 31 to 28, something like that. That's the type of game that I think we're going to high 20s, low 30s type of game tonight in South Philadelphia would be my guess, and that's why I'm going to rock and roll with. I would say the over if you wanted me to get either a spread or an over-under, but the bet I feel the most confident in is Austin Eckler anytime touchdown. All right, let's get to two coaches and their future. We talked a little bit about Coach Prime. I've been pretty consistent on this. Maybe I shouldn't take his word for what it's worth, but I really do believe Coach Prime is not going to be coaching in the NFL next year. But Stu, out of like 100%, I'll just ask you this. Coach Prime going to the NFL next year, what's the number out of 100%? Because there is that factor of, hey, you're coaching your kid in college right now. Your kid's going to be a top 10 pick. I understand it's tough to predict where he's going to go, and then dad would already have to be there. Now, can you pull something off where Shador could come out and say, I don't know, if Coach Prime's coaching the Raiders or if he's coaching one of these teams that are going to be in the top 10, whoever it may be, hey, don't draft my son, or Shador comes out and says, I'm not going there. I want to play with my old man. Can that happen? Yes. Do the teams have to listen? And what does Shador do then if a team drafts him where his dad's not the coach? Sure. But there is that human element and that human factor where even though I believe Coach Prime, and I don't think Coach Prime is going to be going to the NFL this offseason, there has to be somewhat of a chance just because dad could think, hey, how cool would it be to coach my son in the NFL and continue what we're doing right now in college, what we've done the last 3-4 years in college. So what would you say the number is 100% out of 100 that Coach Prime goes to the NFL this offseason?
I'd say like 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you're a little bit higher than I am. I think there's like a small little glimmer of hope that I'll go 6-7%. I think it's pretty low. I think the question is, does he go back to Colorado? Now, I think he could leave Colorado, get a bigger job. My gut tells me that he's back next year at Colorado. And then after a year of being at Colorado without Shador and Travis Hunter, that's when I do believe that the floodgates are going to open up a little bit, where maybe he just says, hey, I've proven everything I needed to prove. I'm out. Or one of those bigger jobs do come calling. Like a big job's going to come calling. With what he is right now, and being at 7 wins with that program, 7-2, and what they have done, there is going to be, I don't want to say it has to be a marquee job, but whatever opens up SEC, Big Ten, those are the two big conferences. If you're one of those lower level SEC or Big Ten teams or kind of middle of the road, why not? Why not? Like, at least you'll be relevant instead of just hiring what other coach out there that's going to get you 4 or 5 wins a year. I would take the gamble on Coach Prime. And I've been in the minority on this. You know, when I worked with Hickey and I used to go back and forth on this, he'd be like, well, why should Coach Prime get a big-time job? I'm like, why not? Like, if you're Auburn, who else are you? Auburn's a good job, like a solid job. You know, they ran Gus Malzahn out of town. How's that worked out for them? You know, Hugh Freeze, no thank you. And you've had Brian Harsin there. Remember Brian Harsin? You almost can't remember him because he was barely at Auburn, for crying out loud. So I was someone that had this vision. I was a believer in Coach Prime, even though I may have said he was only going to win 5 games this year. But I was a believer from the jump in terms of he should get a big boy job, like a big-time SEC or Big Ten job. And that's the 2 premier conferences right now. Do I think he's going to an ACC school? No, I don't think Florida State's going to come calling. They're going to give Norvell another year. But I don't think he's going to an ACC school. You know, he's in the Big 12 right now. If he's leaving Colorado, I really do believe it's for a Big Ten job or it's for an SEC job. And look at like what Indiana did. They brought in a coach in Curt Cignetti. And I'm not saying Cignetti is prime time. And Cignetti was established as a coach, but you brought in a coach who wasn't afraid to talk a big game, right? Remember when Cignetti got there and he goes, I checked my resume, and he goes, all I do is win. And we're all like, well, we know who he was, but it was basically like, who the bleep is this guy? You think you're going to turn Indiana into some big program? And here they haven't lost a game yet. Again, they haven't lost a game yet, Indiana. They're undefeated, 10-0, first time in program history. So I think if you're one of these schools that are a bigger brand or in a bigger conference, the Big Ten or the SEC, what are your options? You go take a G5 coach? Okay, that could work. You know, there are G5 coaches that work. There's also a lot of G5 coaches that haven't worked. You know, for all the ones that have worked, I give you a lot longer list of guys that have not worked, that were supposed to be the guy. You know, Willie Taggart, Tom Herman, right? All these guys that you go through the list that were supposed to be hey, Billy Napier right now in Florida. So why wouldn't you at least, even though it's going to come with a lot of hoopla, why wouldn't you just take the risk on Coach Prime? But I do believe Coach Prime, bare minimum, will be back at Colorado next year. Now, here's the one that the name keeps on getting thrown out there in the NFL. And I don't know, Stu, it seems like the name just getting thrown out there because of his personality. I know he has the current issue with the league and Goodell and all that stuff. But John Gruden's name keeps on getting floated out there, where we've seen him be a part of like the Saints with Carr. He was at Tampa Bay last week, even though they took him out of the Ring of Honor. So people think he's going to get restored back in the Ring of Honor. I have never thought for a second that John Gruden's going to be making his triumphant return to an NFL sideline. And he did an interview. It was with CBS like a month, 2 months ago, where he was talking about his desire to maybe coach in college. So, you know, when someone throws your name out there, you're going to take it when you're in the status of John Gruden, where you're basically persona non grata right now in the NFL. You know, but is he someone that you can't? I don't think it's off the table that you can't hire him. I just don't believe he's going to get an NFL head coaching job again, because ever since he really won that Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, and that's the early 2000s, well, kind of an overrated coach. You know, he's great at ESPN on Monday Night Football. You know, the personality, Gruden on TV, and now the TikTok, you know, the nicey stuff. And then today he gets hired by Barstool. He's a full-time employee by Barstool Sports now. And it's a 3 Super Bowl deal. So starting with this Super Bowl and then the next 2 Super Bowls. And Portnoy, I heard him say there's an out in that contract if he gets an NFL job. If he gets a coaching job, he could leave. But he's like going to do podcasts right now with our pals like Jersey Jerry and like Mincy. You know, he's hanging out with Stephen Che. He told Portnoy, if I'm not doing a good job, you could cut me. So with Gruden, especially the timing of this was interesting too. Because not that Boomer Esiason, right, is the end-all be-all, but Boomer has a lot of clout in NFL circles. And Boomer said, how about John Gruden for the Jets? And he thought John Gruden was going to be back coaching in the NFL next year. And now he's getting a full-time gig with Barstool. You know, John Gruden. Not at what we thought the job announcement would be for Chucky. But I just have a tough time seeing Gruden going back to the NFL. And even though Gruden say what you want about him. He's addicted to football. So would he put up with the NIL crap to go coach college? I could see it. But I think for a guy that was away for 10 years and was very successful in the media, Barstool's a good landing spot for him where he could say whatever he wants. And there will be a lot of eyeballs, and he'll be very relevant as well. I'm not ruling out ever a return to coaching, but I just don't see it, Stu, where he's going to be back on an NFL sideline this upcoming season, for next season.
Yeah, especially someone who watched the, 3+ seasons when he came back to the Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. I thought he was a very good coach when he built that Raiders team and then won the Super Bowl with the Bucs. But ever since the return, I don't know. I'm not going to say the game passed him by or anything like that, but I just don't see it as a great head coach. So the interest that is rumored or whatnot, that kind of surprises me.
And his first year back, they were 4-12. Then they were 7-9. They were 8-8. And then he got fired, 4 weeks or so into the season. And that team ended up going 10-7. So it's they were building something. But was anyone ever going to look at the Raiders being an habitual playoff team under Gruden again, or a team that we ever thought could go compete for a Super Bowl? No. So, out of all the jobs that could open, right? We already know the Jets are open. It's you go through the list. We know the Saints are open. And Gruden's going to have to get rid of Carr again? Is that going to be a move next door to him in New Orleans now? Move next door to the boot or something like that? What are we doing here? I know they're very close. And then Chicago could open. It should open. The Giants have been talked about. There's some jobs out there. Jacksonville that we talk about. Well, let's be real. Out of all the jobs that will potentially open, and we'll go through the 5 that I think are definitely going to open. 2 are already open coming up later. We're going to do a paper shredder Thursday today. We're not going to do teams that we're shredding out of the playoffs because that has reached a little bit of a stalemate right now. We're going to do coaches. I got pictures of coaches' faces, and we're going to be throwing coaches in the paper shredder that we think are dunzo. It's I got a black and white photo sitting in front of me right now. Let's see, who's the first one here? Of Mike McDaniel, right? Mike McDaniel. We're gonna see if he's gonna get thrown in the paper shredder. Stu, do you think you can identify every coach just based off their look?
Oh, not every. I don't think every coach. I think I could probably get 25.
All right, so you know that this is Mike McDaniel,
yes,
right?
My look-alike, some say.
I'm gonna cover up the logo. Who's this? Can you see?
Can you angle it a little more?
Can you see it?
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
That's Matt Eberflus.
Okay.
All righty, let me cover up this guy. You know who this is?
Is that Mr. Is that Mr. Bowles?
No.
It's very hard to tell from here, to be honest.
That is Gerard Mayo. How about this guy? Bald guy. You get that?
Oh, that's Mr. the Giants coach. What's his name?
Brian
Dable. Yeah, Dable.
All right, this one, I think it's tough. And to Stu's credit, he's 15 feet away from me. Half my hand, which is a large hand, is covering the logo, so it's covering...
The black and white also does not help.
Yeah, and there's a glare in between the window, too. Who's this guy? You know who this is? Woof, woof. Woof, woof. Woof, woof. I'm giving you the hint.
Is it Stefanski?
Yeah, it is
Stefanski. Okay,
Stefanski.
because Browns, yeah.
You can't miss this guy. He's a large human being. Who's this guy, you know?
Big Mike.
Big Mike.
God, I love Big Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy. All right, this guy, I got to cover up the logo on the top and the bottom. I don't know if you'll know who this is. You know who this is?
It's not Cornelius, is it?
No, it's not
Cornelius, I mean.
Decent guess, though. That is Zach Taylor. Guy looks like he could be selling Sharpies at Staples or something, if I'm being honest. All right, this guy's recognizable. You know who this guy is, right? Can you see? Squint, Stu.
I know, it's hard. It's hard to see. Oh, Peterson.
Yeah.
The logo gave it away.
I think you'll know who this guy is. You know who this guy is?
Oh, that's my guy, Mr. Pierce.
Antonio Pierce. And here's Todd Bowles. So we will go through the paper shredder coming up in about an hour from now and see which coaches I'm going to fire. Kind of feels really dark if I'm going to be throwing coaches into a paper shredder. But anyway, there's one of these jobs that are opening up, and you already know the Jets are open, and you already know the Saints are open. Wouldn't you think that the Jets are probably the most likely? Because the Jet job, assuming Rodgers comes back, I don't think that's going to be an attractive job because a lot of coaches are going to be like, oh, we have the quarterback for a year. He's not the guy anymore, and he's basically the coach of the organization. So don't you have to basically hire a guy that doesn't have a great chance of getting a head coaching job again? People throw out Rex Ryan making a return. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's a bad suggestion because I think you got to go outside the box here because I don't think a lot of these candidates that are the young hotshot coordinators are going to be interested. If there's going to be a job, Stu, where Gruden goes in the NFL, I would think it would be the Jets. And also Woody Johnson or Christopher Johnson. I think that's a kind of hire that they would make where it's more clicks, not based off what's actually going to help you on the field.
Unless Jerry Jones has some crazy idea in mind if he strikes out on Belichick that he wants some established guy with a personality. But I don't know.
That's fair.
Probably unlikely.
Imagine. Let me tell you what, Jerry. Let me tell you about that McGriddle. Let me tell you what, man with the soul. All right, we'll take a break. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We will come on back after these short messages. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks could be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields guards and Real Fit products. Boyd in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5 minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It's basically like the Long Island Fight Show, pretty much, today. We had Chris Weidman on in the last hour. Now our buddy Matt Frevola, the Steamroller, is in the house. UFC 309 coming your way Saturday night at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. And Matt's kind enough to stop by for a few minutes right now. Matt, how you been?
Doing good, man. You got to love when the UFC comes to town. MSG again. They always bring the great fights. We got John Jones coming. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
No, I'm doing fantastic. So you've had that thrill before, right? You know both sides of it, winning and losing at Madison Square Garden. But as someone that grew up right on Long Island, you know the importance of the world's most famous arena, to be able to fight and knowing how much it means to you with the local roots, just like how do you kind of look back at those experiences and those memories?
Dude, I mean, it doesn't get bigger than MSG, especially growing up Long Island kid. It's the Mecca, you know, the world's most famous arena. So that was always like the dream, fighting at MSG. And now it's insane that I've done it 3 times, and I've won, I've lost, and I've had a draw. So I've done everything at MSG. So it's always fun, you know, when the UFC comes to town.
So how about your fighting future? You were on a hot streak for a while, and you lost the last 2. Where are we at right now at the Steamroller train with Matt Frevola?
You know, I'm just enjoying training right now. I'm getting back to the gym, helping the team. We got so many, you know, up-and-coming Long Island fighters coming up. So just getting in the gym, training, helping these guys, and, you know, figuring out how to be a dad. I got my 4-month-old baby Cash back home, so enjoying that and just living life. So can't complain.
Well, now you got a lot of responsibilities. Congratulations, by the way. Usually you just have to get ready to fight, and also you have to deal with the cheese roller as well and all the chaos that he causes for you. But when you have now a kid, how has that been, like, kind of life-changing, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it's been great. You know, I bring him into the gym. He just does his tummy time, gets his neck muscles on point in the gym, watches his dad, you know, hit some pads. So it's fun, you know. And then just like the next generation is coming, you know. Now I got a kid, so I could see that. And then these next young fighters coming up in the gym, and we still got Weidman, you know. And now it's nice. Like Aljamain's back, Merab's back, so it's nice to have the whole team, you know, back when the UFC's in town.
So anytime that you're coming in or I get a UFC guy on, I text 2 people around here, Pete Hoffman, who you know,
yeah.
And then one of my former coworkers that I used to work with, Ike Feldman, who's
Nice.
a big
Nice.
fighter now, which I
Yes.
didn't even know. So I told him you were coming in, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, Matt choked me out the other week when you guys were sparring and grappling and getting ready." So give me the scouting report on Ike.
Dude, I mean, Ike's got it. You know, he's training for a jiu-jitsu competition right now. And he's a competitor. Like when I first met Ike, he was getting ready for a boxing fight.
Yeah, he's
and
a silent assassin.
Oh yeah, he loves martial arts, and he's perfect. He's been crushing the podcast too, talking with a lot of fighters, and I'm excited for his competition coming up because he knows what he's doing on the ground.
For sure. Matt Frevola here with us. So what's the latest? I remember that guy, Patty Pimblett, who is big, and he was ducking you. And then when you finally lost, he's like, oh, yeah, I would have fought him. But, now that's beneath me because he can't win. That guy, what a fraud Patty Pimblett is, right?
Hey, I give him the respect. He's killing it. He had that amazing submission against Bobby Green. And we'll see. He's going to get a big fight. I think him and Moicano might be next or whatever it is. He's going to get a big fight. So, I think me and him down the road is definitely something. We'll see. Maybe we'll both be like 50 years old. We'll just do influencer boxing.
You'll be like Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly.
And then let me be clear with Patty. I was annoyed because I know you and all that, and I thought it was weak, but he has kind of restored his reputation since coming back from the injury.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. I've always given him the respect that his jiu-jitsu is high level. He could submit any one of these guys, and then his stand-up is coming along too, and he's beating the guys that they're putting in front of him. So as long as you keep doing that, he'll keep getting big fights. So I'm excited for his next fight.
Now you talk to more people than I do in the fight world, so everyone has a different opinion on this Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. I just look at it on social media. I see some videos of Mike Tyson. I'm like, all righty, that's the Mike Tyson that we all know. And then I see some other videos where I'm like, ooh, I don't think that this should be happening. What are your thoughts on the fight Friday?
Yeah, I can't believe it's actually happening. I can't believe that it got sanctioned. But, I mean, I'm holding on to some glimmer of hope, like all of us, that Mike could come in there and just, look like he used to and catch Jake and get an awesome knockout. Of course, I want to see that too. But that's not how the fight game works. That's not how it works. And Jake is in his prime. It looks like he's training the right way. And he's, I see he's showing his sparring clips. That was one thing I was like, I want to see if Mike Tyson's sparring, can he still take a hit? I saw a little bit of his sparring footage, so it made me feel a little bit better. But, I mean,
you think Jake's going to win?
Yeah, I think most likely Jake's going to go in there and put a beating on him. Hopefully it doesn't, knock him out, and have it go viral clip. You don't want to see that.
Be sad, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to see that from Mike Tyson. But, hopefully Mike Tyson goes in there and puts a good showing for himself. But Father Time is undefeated.
And here's the thing. It's brilliant on Jake Paul's front. If you lose, all right, you lose to Mike Tyson. If you win, though, anyone that ever said, oh, you're not a real boxer, it's like, well, I just knocked out Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but they're still going to say you knocked out Mike Tyson
when he's a dinosaur.
60 years old. So until Jake Paul really, fights someone his own age, a boxer, an up-and-coming guy, kind of around him, he's not going to get their respect, which, we'll see. He's promoted himself the right way, and he's picking these fights the right way.
Strategic.
Yeah, and we're all gonna watch. It's crazy. It's gonna be on Netflix, so it's interesting. I think that's one thing that interests me the most. Netflix getting into the fight business.
Now, you think that'll have an impact for you guys?
I think so. I think the UFC has a deal with ESPN.
Yeah,
and now once that deal's up, just having another face in the game. What could you imagine Netflix, UFC being exclusively with Netflix? I think it just makes it all a little bit interesting, even though the fighters won't see any of that money.
Yeah, right. I want to keep my relationship in a good spot with Dana White, so I'm not going to touch that one. Matt Frevola here with us.
We should, though.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right, go ahead. You can say what you want about it.
Yeah, it's just the fighters don't have a fighters union. That's why we don't have any representation in any of those contracts. But hopefully, one day that'll change.
So how do you create change is my question. Because this has been something, hey, I've talked about it with Dana before. I've had fighters on. It's one of those issues. It never goes away. It's always talked about it. Everyone has their 2 cents. What needs to happen in your perspective?
I think we'll see. There's this lawsuit that's going on that's been going back and forth. See what happens with that. But I remember I signed back in the day it was some kind of like fighters union, but and it was Leslie Smith was running it, and then they just found out and they just instantly cut her.
Oh, okay.
It's but I think as long as people keep talking about it, it'll move move in the right direction.
Matt Frevola here with us. Let me ask you about John Jones, because Dana always says he's the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. You being in the fight game, do you agree with that?
You know, technically he is. He's never been beat. No one's ever been able to solve the John Jones puzzle. But you always have to put a little, salt on that with the drug tests and him hiding from USADA, but no one's ever beat him. And I do respect that he's going up to heavyweight. I'm very curious to see the heavyweight John Jones experiment, because it's still, we saw, a glimpse of it, like a minute. He went in there, took down Gain, choked him out right away. But Stipe is going to really test him. And that's what I'm excited, because nobody runs through Stipe. And Stipe is just as tall as John. John always has trouble with guys that are tall. I think Stipe is the.
You think Stipe is going to win?
Oh yeah, I think Stipe is the perfect guy to go in there and humble John Jones and give him his first loss. But we'll see.
Now he's already talking about the potential next fight, and Dana White was on with our Jim Rome a few hours ago, and Dana made it clear that if John wants to fight again after this one, it would have to be up against Aspinall. I know we've already thrown Pereira out there. I'm a casual UFC fan. I've become more of a fan throughout the years, and I'm like, oh, give me John Jones, Alex Pereira. That would be awesome. But a lot of the guys in the UFC community are like, no. We need to see Aspinall up against Jones if Jones wins on Saturday.
Yeah, that's the fight. Aspinall right now is I think Aspinall is the baddest man on the planet right now. He's the
best pound for pound fighter.
I think so. He's the up and coming, the young guy, the heavy. He fights everybody. I think John Jones beats Stipe. I think he's got to take that fight. I know what he's saying. He's doesn't excite him and whatnot, but I think especially now, all this, everybody knows that's the fight to make. And Dana said it. So if John Jones beats Stipe, but I think that's a big if.
The face of the UFC, I think, is in a fascinating point. We know Dana is always the guy that's seen the most, and we hear the most from Dana White. For so many years, it was Conor McGregor. I'll believe Conor's going to fight again when I actually see it. But Alex Pereira is the guy, to me, that drives me anytime he's fighting. I got to watch. And how he just keeps on going up weight classes and winning. It's ridiculous right now. What stands out to you about him?
Oh, it's amazing to watch. Just his rise. And he's truly got the striking. He can knock out anybody in the world. And he's big enough that he can, that weight cut for him to make 185, and those fights with Adesanya, they're legendary.
We're great.
And then now him at 205, he almost looks like a better fighter. Him not killing himself to make weight. He's killing it at 205. And I'm a fan of greatness. So I agree. To watch him go up to heavyweight now and be the first ever 3 weight class UFC champ, it would be amazing. That would be greatness. So I'm rooting for that. I'd like to see that. But like I said before, Aspinall is the guy. I think John Jones, Aspinall, and then maybe you have that. The winner of Aspinall, John Jones fights Pereira. I think down the line you're gonna see Pereira up at heavyweight, and we'll see against who.
A few more minutes with Matt Frevola, the steamroller in studio. Obviously, UFC 309 coming your way Saturday night at the world's most famous arena, MSG. And you got a cool event going on tonight right here in the city, right, at Mustang's Harry's?
Yeah, going to Mustang Harry's, going to mingle with the fans a little bit. They got the press conference going on now, so after that, going to have a good time over there.
Awesome. And I know that you're a big Met fan, too.
Oh, yeah.
Give us the pitch to your best friend, Steve Cohen, on why we need to go get Juan Soto, right?
Oh, yeah. Come on. The Mets, just this season, it was so much fun. It really made me love baseball again. I'm getting my son ready for Williamsport now, for Little League. I want him to be the bat boy. I'm going to talk to him, talk to Steve, Uncle Stevie, get cash roll in as the bat boy. But yeah, we're clicking right now. I want Alonso to come back. I love Alonso, honestly, but I think Soto will see that. We'll see how much fun the Mets are having right now. And who doesn't want to join that? It's making baseball fun again. So,
yeah, let me get to Michael Chandler, because I love the guy, but then he was annoying me because he kept on giving Conor the benefit of the doubt when we all knew Conor was not going to be fighting anytime soon. What do you think we're going to see from Michael? Because everyone's been talking about the Conor side of this. What will he look like when he gets back to the octagon? But Chandler has been waiting a long time to get back in there.
Oh, yeah, and he just kept waiting. I think he's going to have a lot of, built-up frustration in there. So it could work against him. He's fighting Oliveira. Oliveira is a beast. Oliveira's definitely got the jiu-jitsu. He beat him in the first. They fought before, and Oliveira choked him out. It was a crazy fight, and I think Chandler's definitely the most dangerous in the first round. You think he's going to have all this bent-up frustration, come out guns blazing, but if Oliveira weathers that storm, uses that jiu-jitsu and gets the finish, that's probably what I see is going to happen.
Now, I've said it a few times in this conversation. I'll say it again. I don't think we'll ever see Conor again. Are you in that same line of thinking as well?
I think that we will see him fight again. In the UFC, that's the question.
Oh, so you think it's going to be like another boxing match or something like that?
I think we're going to see him bare-knuckle boxing before we see him.
Cash grab.
Before we see him in the octagon. But we'll see. I want to see him fight. I think he's still got some fight left in him. He's not fighting for the money anymore, obviously. He wants to fight because he's still got it in him. So I want to see him fight, and I think we will see him fight.
You were a great underdog story from the last time that we talked, and you had a lot of, a good little run there of some national success and getting highlighted a lot. Why do you still want to keep on fighting now in your mid-30s?
Yeah, it's what I do. I love training. I love the lifestyle. So I'm just going to keep living the lifestyle for as long as I can. So, it was never for the money for me. It was because it's what I love to do. I love being in the gym. I love training martial arts. And we're just lucky to keep doing that and keep competing at the highest level. So
has retirement at all been on your mind, just wondering?
Yeah, after every fight, it could be, I treat every fight like it could be my last fight. After every fight camp, after every fight, I always reassess, get back to the gym, and then just get back to having fun, getting better. And then once I start feeling that fire, that killer coming out, and then we get a fight booked. So I'm just enjoying every part of the process, not thinking about it too much, and just having fun with it.
And the last thing I'll ask you, Matt Frevola, the Steamroller, is here with us. We just had Weidman on like we were talking about. I know you guys are close. Just what are we getting on Saturday night from Chris?
Let's go. He's still our boy. He's still our boy. You got to love Chris Weidman Fight Week. He's a Long Island legend and a true inspiration to, not just Long Island, to just everybody out there. Just coming back from all the injuries and still being able to fight and do it, and I like this fight for him this weekend. Eric Anders is a beast, though, another veteran. Eric Anders was a college football player at Alabama. I think he was a linebacker. But our boy Weidman, he's looking good. I know he's living down in North Carolina now, but he's training hard, and I'm so excited.
He's Matt Frevola, the Steamroller. Always great when we get you in. Thanks so much for coming in, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All righty, we'll take a time out. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's get an update in. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And this report is brought to you by PXG Golf. Staying long and straight on the golf course is easier than ever with PXG clubs. Take your game to a whole new level and save $10 per club at pxg.com/football and use code football. Week 11 of the NFL season begins with a great NFC East matchup between the Commanders and Eagles in Philly. Surprisingly, Washington is at 7-3 on the season, and a win tonight would give the Commanders their best start since 1996. They've certainly made an impression on Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts.
They got great players playing hard. The way they are able to create problems up front. Their linebackers are really good players, smart players, instinctual players, fast players. And then out wide, they're very sticky in coverage.
Hurts has thrown for a touchdown, run for one, and a quarterback rating over 100 in each of the last 4 games. First player to ever do that. Washington kicker Austin Seibert has a hip injury. Zane Gonzalez has been promoted from the practice squad, while the Chiefs' Harrison Butker will miss 4 weeks with an knee injury, and Kansas City has signed Spencer Schrader off the Jets' practice squad. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, news brief time. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's start off with Lamar Jackson on why they've struggled up against the Steelers in the past.
I don't know. It's a different team right now. It was different guys last year. It's a different unit this year. But it's always the same goal. We want to win. We want to be the ones that come out victorious, and that's going to be the goal going into this game.
This is a huge game for the Ravens. It really is. I know the Steelers, we could look at it, okay, they win. Maybe they catapult themselves into, and they would catapult themselves into contender conversation. But this is one of those games. I know it's tough with also the Ravens just beating the Bengals. It's one of those, if you're the Ravens, people are starting to believe in you. You can't give them a reason to question you once again. Josh Allen, you go up against Kansas City this weekend in Buffalo. A little extra focus this week versus the Chiefs?
It's a Week 11 game. It's no bigger and no less than the last 10 games that we've had, and that's I know the media perception and the fan perception and what this game means, but for us it's just Week 11 for us.
If you look at your numbers in head-to-head meetings between you and Patrick, they're virtually the same. What does that say about the two of them? Maybe.
Well, I know we haven't beat them in the playoffs, so that's the only thing that kind of matters.
I don't know, Stu. If you're Buffalo, this is going to sound weird. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to preface this by saying I know this sounds like a stupid statement. Wouldn't you rather just lose a close game to them in the regular season? Because then you probably play them again in the postseason, and you're capable of beating them. You've beat them before in the regular season. All these games have been close. And it's almost as if you win this game in the regular season, I do feel like there's going to be a but for Buffalo on Sunday. Even if they win, let's see if you could do it come postseason time.
Yeah, don't waste your win on them now. Do it in January.
Because there's going to be such an exhale if you do it. And it's like, we've already been in this spot in the regular season. Let's go to Sauce Gardner on his crazy social media activity as of late. And I advocated the other day that Sauce should give up social media and just get out of all those waters right now.
A month ago, you said that you deleted Twitter from your phone. Just what happened for you to get back?
I had to find this DM because it was something like off the field that I had to find, and I went down a little rabbit hole when I got on there. I ain't even gonna lie to you, But I did delete it, but I had to install it for something, and I went down a little rabbit hole, man. Because when I go on, my home feed on Twitter is just negative. So as soon as I got on there, I'm like, I done forgot to go look at the DM that I was supposed to go on there for because what I've been seeing. So I got a little distracted. I got to be better, man.
Did you re-delete it?
Yeah, I re-deleted it. I deleted it again.
Yeah, you'll be back on. How is there not a follow-up there, by the way? What was going on in the DMs? I'm assuming maybe, I don't know Sauce's relationship status, but I would assume maybe some lady swooped into the DMs and you had to go find something. That would be my best guess. Here is Jason Kelsey on once pooping his pants on the sideline. This courtesy of New Heights Podcast.
This is why I hate white pants. Dude, I did this before a game once.
What is this,
and
high
I
school?
felt, when you shart and you know that there's a possibility something just came up but you're not certain.
And I remember turning. You got to get off the field.
I turned, and I'm not going to announce names. I turned to my buddy, my O-line friend, and I was like, "Hey, can you check me? Because I think I might have just myself, right?" And he checks me. He says, "You're good." I go out for warm-ups. Lane comes up to me after warm-ups. He's like, "Hey, you got all up and down your pants right now." So in between warm-ups and the start of the game, I
seep through.
I keep my shoulder pads on, take off all of my all of my lower half,
all of it.
Get in the shower and showering.
Oh, that's funny as. You felt that nasty. You had to
dude,
it yeah.
It was disgusting.
And this is all off James Houston of the Lions, looking like he went number 2 in his pants during the game. There was a little brown spot on those white pants. It was like a little brown, yellow spot. And he's adamant that he did not do so. So, I'm an expert in terms of covering the pooping the pants story, not pooping in my own pants. We know that's Sean Marash, who would be the expert on that front. But I remember a conversation I once had with now special teams coordinator of the Washington Commanders, Larry Izzo, who was a special teams demon when he played in the NFL, and Bill Belichick once gave him a game ball for successfully taking a number 2 on the sideline. Here's Larry Izzo with us a few years ago.
I wanted to do whatever it took to win the game, and that's what I did. I was not going to be a guy that was unavailable to his team because he had to run off to the bathroom, and I didn't want to be that guy. So I did what I had to do, and it was appreciated, obviously, by the head coach and my teammates, and it was recognized in the form of a game ball, which I still have to this day, and it's one of my prized possessions because it is a great story.
Not to get too personal, did you use toilet paper, or were there you just had to use the towels on the sideline?
I'm very thorough regardless in that department, and so, yeah, everything was cleaned up properly with excessive towel use.
No wet wipes on the sideline. That's awesome. One of the great stories in the history of the league. So when I saw the Jason Kelce story today, I instantly texted it to Larry Izzo, who has a game tonight. And I said, no Larry Izzo to me. And he was like, not even close, with a laughing face emoji. So Larry Izzo, one of the all-time greats, special teams player, and also one of the all-time great being able to poop on the sideline without anyone ever noticing. Here is Dan Orlovsky and Adam Schefter on the possibility of Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders being a package deal to a team this year coming up in the 2025 season, courtesy of ESPN.
There's going to be teams. So again, the Jets, the Giants, the Saints, the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Browns, the Carolina Panthers. There's going to be teams but there's going to be organizations out of that group that I said that Deion is going to say no.
That's fine. That's fine. The point is that this is just going to be an option that's out there. Is there a team out there that's in position to get Shedeur Sanders that also wants to go and hire Deion Sanders to marry them up together moving forward?
So how does that work, Stu? Do you hire Deion first? You would think so, right? You can't wait until April of 2025 and then have an acting head coach, and then you have to assume that you're going to get Shedeur as well. You got to hire Deion and then hope that Shedeur just says, hey, I'm not going to anybody else but where my dad is coaching, and hope that the other teams don't end up drafting you.
Yeah, you almost have to have the first pick, because if you don't, then another team might be like, oh, I'll take Shedeur. We'll take Shedeur. Then what? Then what are you going to do? I guess, like you said, he can threaten not to play, but who knows? Like
Jacksonville right now would have the first overall pick of the draft, but they have their quarterback. The Giants, I don't think the Giants are hiring Coach Prime, if I'm being honest. Tennessee, okay. You're going to get rid of Callahan after 1 year? I guess for Shedeur you would. I think Stefanski's going to be back. I keep on looking at the Raiders. Would you want Shedeur if it means you have to have Deion as your head coach?
Sure.
Yeah, you don't care.
I'm willing to
get rid of
take the
Antonio
chance.
Pierce, no
Yes,
problem.
Definitely.
Okay. New Orleans possibility? Because it's not even a lock that Shedeur is going to be the first quarterback. He'll be either one or two. So maybe it needs to be two for that to end up happening. Because a lot of people, I think, are going to go Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders, even though it could be close. So that would be something. Imagine the Raiders, man. That'd be awesome. Brady, Prime, Shedeur. That'd be cool. Maybe you get like Rick Ross on the offensive line so we could all do the Shedeur Sanders. With the big, with obviously the big watches as well. Those would be cool. That'd be awesome. I'd be very happy for you, Stu. If you could get Primetime, Shedeur, and Tommy Brady. That would be awesome. All righty, coming on back. Little Paper Shredder Thursday. Next!
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
If you're not watching us on YouTube right now, I would suggest watching us on YouTube right now. Because if I may say so myself, and I'm a very honest person, I look like a moron right now. I look like a moron, I look like an idiot, and I look like a dope. So we keep on doing this Paper Shredder Thursday, which we eliminate teams from the postseason. We have eliminated a little less than half the teams in the NFL. But with how bad the NFL teams are this year, I don't think for the next week or two there's going to be teams that we could eliminate. So we'll have to put the teams that we're going to eliminate on the back burner for a bit. But when we've done this segment, I had a white construction worker's hat the last time. It was way too big, and I looked like a dope then. So then Santa runs back to engineering and goes, can we get Zach a smaller, just a little bit of a smaller construction worker's hat? So they gave me a blue one. And now this thing is too tight. And I kid you not, the last few weeks I've had to go to a chiropractor a bunch, Stu, because I've had some neck pain. And I got to be careful when I say this, because I don't want to be like some other talk show hosts. They think I have herniated a disc in my neck, which I've done once in my lower back when I played basketball like 6 years ago, and it was some of the worst pain I've ever been. But I felt really good the last 2-3 weeks since going to my main man, the chiropractor, Dr. Marino, right around my apartment. Nice guy, huge sports fan, really good dude. And, I've done that. I've done the physical therapy, and I felt a lot better. But I kid you not, now with this construction worker's hat that is way too tight, and it's really like pressing into my brain, I don't want to move too much because then it's like straining my neck in a weird way. So I may get some workers' comp here, if I'm being honest. I may get a little lawsuit coming on up, a little Zach Gelb Show lawsuit. No, I wouldn't do that. But anyway, let's fire up some NFL music. I have the paper shredder. When I tested out the paper shredder at first, it wasn't working because I did a good job here. I cleaned out the paper shredder because it was very heavy walking it over here, but I forgot to put the bin back in, so I tested a piece of paper. It wasn't shredding, and then I realized I didn't close the bin. So this paper shredder today has been a disaster. I have a helmet that is way too small on me, and then I got this paper shredder, which I think is going to work, but it's still very difficult because of how low I'm sitting to shred the paper. But anyway, it's kind of a disaster. We like kind of hot messes here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So the paper shredder this week, we already have the Jets job open and the Saints job open. Which NFL coaches are we going to be shredding? Who are we going to be putting in the paper shredder? We start off with Todd Bowles. And we have Todd Bowles, a guy that I don't think he should really be on the hot seat. Last year took this team to the postseason. This year they've been without Mike Evans. They've been without Chris Godwin. They're not going to make the playoffs. But Baker Mayfield has been gritty. My only gripe with Todd Bowles was a few weeks ago up against Kansas City. He should have definitely have gone for 2 points. But I don't think Tampa Bay is going to get rid of him. I think he'll get another season. We are not shredding a Temple man. We'll shred him for not going for 2 a few weeks ago, but we will not be shredding a Temple man in Todd Bowles. Alrighty. Stu, I had you shred your Raiders a few weeks ago. Now we have Antonio Pierce. Do you think Antonio Pierce is going to be back next season?
I think he'll be back. Now, like we just discussed last segment, if there's maybe a Deion Sanders path to getting Shador, maybe that's. But if that's off the table, I think Pierce will be back.
I still go back to what Rich Gannon said. Rich Gannon, I don't know about you, Stu. He was operating under the belief that Antonio was not going to be there. Not that Rich knows everything that's going on in the organization, but that audio to me was the first time that I thought, hey, maybe he's not going to be back. That's what I thought. But then the more and more it goes on, you could have one and dones, right? We've seen it before. You had a coach in Cleveland be one and done. You had Coley be one and done. There's been a lot of one and dones before. A few one and dones before in the NFL. But Antonio Pierce, I think he's going to get another year. I do, but how much does the Gannon thing factor into this? Last case before we decide if we're going to shred him or not.
He's definitely plugged in, so that at least turned my head. But I just think he's going to get another year. Yeah. I really do.
And also, it was on that Speak for Yourself show on FS1 when they had Coach Prime on. If we're talking about Shador and Prime to the Raiders, now Prime could, if he wanted to, stab Antonio Pierce in the back. He did say that he wouldn't have a problem with Shador going to the Raiders because he likes the coach in Antonio Pierce. So I think Antonio will get one more year. All righty, we'll put him aside. This is going to pain me. This is a good man in Doug Peterson. He's a good man. I liked my time when I got to interact with Doug Peterson in Philadelphia. I thought for coaches who could sometimes be sleazy, he was one of the more authentic coaches I've ever met, right? He's like a regular guy. I would love to go drink a few beers with Doug Peterson. And we do these off-the-record media availabilities, which are really fun in Philadelphia. I learned a lot each and every Friday. But the Jaguars, see, here's the misnomer with the Jaguars. People think the Jaguars are cheap. The last 2 hires have been big-time hires. Doug Peterson was a big-time hire. Urban Meyer was a big-time hire. They just didn't work out. And now you already paid Trevor Lawrence, which I thought was way too premature. The coach is not getting the best out of the quarterback. The quarterback's probably done for the season, but this season was already lost. I think they go big star hunting again. They'll try for Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson will probably say no. Vrabel or Belichick probably the next 2 guys. But if they don't get out of those 2 guys, then where do you go from there? But I don't think it's going to be Doug Peterson. This is going to pain me. You know, we'll even pet Doug a little bit right on the hair. All right, Doug. Nice knowing you, but we're shredding you. We will put Doug Peterson in the paper shredder. Talking about cheap organizations that are actually cheap organizations, unlike the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Cincinnati Bengals. Stu, if this team misses the playoffs, can you see Zach Taylor losing his job?
Yes, I think
you can.
I can. If they miss the playoffs, yes. I think there's going to have to be a scapegoat somewhere, and I think it'll be him.
And if that job becomes available, dare I say it, it's the most attractive job on the market. You know, we just talked about the Jaguars. This is more attractive than the Jaguars. The Jets are more attractive than the Jaguars. The Saints are more, the Bengals are more attractive than the Saints. Like, the Bengals are attractive than all those jobs I just mentioned. Jets, Jaguars, Saints, all of them. Bengals more attractive because you got Burrow, and I know the deal's not done, but Jamar Chase, if they're smart, isn't going to go anywhere. But I don't think they'll get rid of him. Because if you're going to get rid of him, you got to get right one of 3 names. Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick, and Mike Vrabel. Now, I think Ben Johnson would be interested because he's been waiting for the right job, and the Commanders, he knew he was going to have the 2nd overall pick, and he didn't want to go there for whatever the reasons were. However, with that being said, do they get a Belichick? I don't think so. I don't think they pay enough for Belichick, and I don't think they pay enough for Vrabel. And who knows what the price tag's going to be for Ben Johnson. That's a cheap organization. And they let coaches stay there for Marvin Lewis. Fine football coach. They were in the playoffs almost every year. They couldn't win a damn game. And they really needed to hit rock bottom to get rid of Marvin Lewis. I do believe Zach Taylor, even if they missed the postseason, it'd be smart to move on. I think he's back with the Cincinnati Bengals. Is the paper shredder going to be large enough for this man? I don't know what's a tighter fit. This construction worker's hat on my cabeza or trying to fit Mike McCarthy in the paper shredder. Is there any case where Big Mike is back next year? It's the final year of his contract. This is what the Cowboys do. They did it with Jason Garrett. They never fired him. They just let his contract run out, and then they got rid of him. Stu, is there any case for Mikey McCarthy?
There is no case for Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be your answer. Let's shred Mike McCarthy. That's a good man. That's another man you like to have a lot of beers with. Doug Peterson, Mike McCarthy. I don't know if there's another coach in the league outside of Dan Campbell that you'd rather have a beer with. Okay. Kevin Stefanski. If you would have told me that Deshaun Watson wasn't out for the year, I think you can make the case that Kevin Stefanski would actually be fired. Because if Watson was still playing, I think this dopey ownership group would be like, oh, we got to keep on going back to Watson with 2 more years left on the contract guaranteed. Let's just blame a coach who has been a 2-time coach of the year in Cleveland and has made the playoffs twice in where? Cleveland. Now with Watson being out and this season being horrible, I know there's been a lot of sloppiness with the Browns, but I think Stefanski gets another year. And if you get rid of Stefanski, you got to clean house in its entirety. I do think Stefanski is back with the Cleveland Browns next year. This guy does not look happy. I'm looking at his photo right now. He lost a lot of weight, which is good, but he doesn't look happy. And that's Brian Daboll. And the Giants have a decision to make here. Here are the 2 options. You get rid of Daboll. You're not going to get Ben Johnson. You get Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel. You hand over the franchise to one of those 2 guys. Or you keep Joe Shane, you keep Brian Daboll, they draft the quarterback, and then you give him 2 more seasons. I know this sounds crazy. I'm not saying the Giants are anywhere close to being a Super Bowl contender. But they do have some pieces. They got Malik Neighbors, you got Thibodeau, you got Sexy Dexy, and Dexter Lawrence is a stud. You got Brian Burns, you got Bobby Okereke, you got Tyrone Tracy, who's been having a solid rookie season. You just don't have a quarterback. This guy got Daniel Jones to the postseason and won a playoff game with him. I don't think he's a horrible coach. This year has been a disaster, but what else did you expect? You tried to get a quarterback. You weren't able to get a quarterback in the draft, so therefore you had to run it back with Daniel Jones. I think the Mara family is going to want patience here. I think they're going to give not only Brian Daboll and Joe Shane another year, I think they're going to give them 2 more years because they're going to draft a quarterback. You'll have the ups and downs of the rookie quarterback, and then you'll get another season, which will really be make or break. And things could change quickly if you get the right quarterback. Look at the Texans with C.J. Stroud, and also look at the Washington Commanders this past year with Jaden Daniels. I think Brian Daboll is back next season. Next coach, Gerard Mayo. This team has responded to him since he basically called him soft. I think this is even ridiculous that we're talking about it. But play me this audio. I haven't heard it yet, Stu. This is Ted Johnson on NBC Sports Boston. And I already shredded the news brief cut, but I'm pretty sure what this is, the whole cut sheet, because I was testing out the paper shredder, which is something I should stop doing. I always throw away all the audio cuts that we have. But anyway, this is Ted Johnson talking about how the crafts he's hearing are calling out around the rest of the league to figure out how to try to develop Drake May. Let me hear this.
I like that they're kind of asking around, but I don't like it that it gets out. I think it undermines your offensive coordinator a little bit. I think it undermines your head coach. I mean, if you have, the report is that the Crafts are doing the calling. It really should be the head coach that's doing the calling. So I just worry about that relationship. Clearly, we've all kind of wondered now that Bill is gone, how much power do the Crafts have? I mean, if they're the ones that are kind of spearheading this behind the scenes, I just think that can be a tricky thing for a young coach and possibly undermine your offensive coordinator and puts him in a bad position.
Stu, I have one thought on this. Doesn't that just mean that Kraft called a favor into Brady, who is basically like his son, and Brady's now a minority owner, so that qualifies for the Patriots calling around? Like, are the Patriots calling the Lions and saying, hey, how do we fix this offensive system? Where Drake May, yes, you could have questions about developing him, but Drake May has done everything right. If you don't like Van Pelt, that's fine, right? But this is mainly a talent issue around him. The line's not that good, and the wide receivers aren't good. So, like Robert Kraft, you don't need to call around the rest of the league. Call me. I'll tell you what you need to do. Here's you don't need a PhD in football for this take. Go get a number 1 wide receiver and go get some offensive linemen. Go sign T. Higgins this offseason. Go do that. Something like that. But I don't think Gerard Mayo should get fired. So I am not shredding Gerard Mayo. But this whole idea that the Crafts are calling around the league, I don't know. It seems a little fugazi to me. They're probably just calling Brady, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine Mayo getting fired after just 1 year, especially that they've looked better the past few weeks.
Mike McDaniel. They're going to win their next 2 games. And people are going to be like, we're back in on the Dolphins. They'll be 5-6, but then they'll have a season that will probably end 8-9. I don't think they're making the playoffs. However, for some reason, Stephen Ross loves Chris Greer, the general manager. I think he'll be back, and therefore I think McDaniel will be back. And quite frankly, McDaniel deserves another season because you could chalk it up to Tua getting hurt. And the first 2 years were successful for him. This year, not so much. I think they'll put some lipstick on at the end of the year. It will still be a pig, but you put lipstick on a pig, you think it looks a little bit better than what it actually was, and you'll chalk it up to Tua actually getting hurt. But I do think McDaniel gets another year to prove himself. I am not shredding Mike McDaniel. And finally, do I even need to give an explanation for this guy, or do I just shred him? If he is not fired at the end of this year, the Chicago Bears, it's not the Raiders, it's not the Panthers, it's not the Giants, it's not the GD Jets. It doesn't matter. Like, whoever you think is the dumbest team in the league, if the Bears employ this man back next year and they bring him back and they don't fire him, just shut the franchise down. I'll be like John Taffer. I'm going in. Shut it down right now. The Bears need to fire this guy. This is a dead man walking. Waldron, gone. Eberflus should already be fired. The Bears will get rid of Matt Eberflus at the end of this year. A moment of silence, please, for a second. Stu, fade down the music. Let's be respectful here. Thank you. Now we will shred Matt Eberflus. Put him in the shredder! And there goes Matt Eberflus. A salute to Matt Eberflus. Gone. And will definitely never be forgotten because Bear fans have had to suffer a lot of pain through him. Alrighty, that is a little Paper Shredder Thursday on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a break. When we come on back, will Russell Wilson definitely be the starter in Pittsburgh next year? Could they go elsewhere? We will discuss on the other side. But first, football season is in full swing. Take full advantage by winning some cash with Sleeper Picks. Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 of your favorite player stats. If you're right, you could win. You could pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Sleeper has a special offer. New users will have their first deposit match up to $1,500. So if you deposit $1,500, they'll give you an extra $1,500 in credit. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections every week of the season. Check in and see why what they have this week. Download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be matched 100% up to $1,500 in credit. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code SCORE for up to $1,500 credit match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years old in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code, location, and other restrictions apply. See terms of use for details at sleeper.com. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
It's only been like 45 or 50 degrees today in New York City, but the last 2 days it's been very windy. Stu, I don't know if maybe we're just getting a little bit softer with some older age around here, but with how warm it's been, I think that's really more what it is. The last 3 weeks, we've had some days in November where it was 75 degrees. At one point, it was 80 degrees. I think when you get down to now 45 to 50 and you get some wind, it's now feels as if it's 30-something degrees. Now, I will still be a psycho in this studio because it's hot in this studio with the lights, where I will jack the AC all the way down to 66. But today, and this is the latest I've ever had to do it, November 14th, I finally put the heat on in my apartment. It was the first time today I had to say, let's get the heat on. And that's a win when it's in November, mid-November too. But it is absolutely, I think, frigid. I had to make sure I brought the gloves today. I had to bring the winter coat as well, because I was walking around the city last night and I was not dressed for the occasion, if I'm just being honest.
Yeah, it's the worst. Yeah, yesterday was the first day that I brought out the winter jacket. Has finally made an appearance because, yes, it does feel really cold out there.
You have a big puffy winter jacket?
I do, yeah.
I haven't seen your winter jacket. Do you have your winter jacket with you? Is it like a North Face? Well, what kind of winter jacket? I could see Stu with a big puffy winter jacket.
Just like a puffy.
Is that warm enough?
Yeah, it is.
It is?
Yeah, okay. It's like inside it has like that
insulation.
Nice
Insulation.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel as if the very thin-looking winter jackets are still some of the best. And that's what I think Stu kind of has. So if Stu says that he's warm with it, okay, I'll believe Stu, even though it looks a little misleading, if I may say so myself. I saw from our pal Andrew Filipponi, the Pony Express. Last time we brought him up on the air, oh, wow, my hair is all messed up after this construction worker's hat. I'm getting a haircut anyway after the show, but it looks like a mess. I'm like, what is this? Hold on, let's see if we could adjust this real quickly. I got hair going all over the place. My hair looks like it could use some Viagra, if I'm being honest. It got deflated. It's like, I can say this, I'm a Patriot fan. It's like those Tom Brady footballs, for crying out loud. My hair's all deflated after wearing that construction worker's hat in the last segment. But last time we brought up the Pony Express, Andrew Filipponi, dear friend of the show, it was because Pat Narduzzi was going after him, and he was on this show for Pat basically saying that Kyle McCord is going to show you why he's the best pocket passing quarterback in the country. And then Pony got smacked in the mouth with that tweet, that stupid tweet, because McCord had, 5 or 6 interceptions, and there was 3 pick sixes in just the first half. So here is our next Pony Express tweet. Projection. Former NFL front office man, I wonder who that is, thinks Russell Wilson's market value is similar to Kirk Cousins, and that it would be $45 million a year. If Russ wants a 3-year, $135 million contract this offseason, would you give it to him? So Russ or Kirk got a 4-year deal. It was 4 for $180, and it was $100 million guaranteed. Russ is 35. He turns 36 coming up next week. A 3-year contract isn't bad. And paying $45 million a year now for a quarterback isn't that bad. But if I'm going to be dealing out that cash, I know Russ has been good the last few weeks and better than what we thought. But a 3-year, $135 million deal, Stu, with a quarterback that's about to be 36, I would say thanks, but no thanks. Don't you eventually, if you're Pittsburgh, you got to rip off the Band-Aid? Like, you got rid of Ben, or Ben retired. Let me say that properly. And then it's been like Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges, quack, quack. Remember him? Kenny Pickett. You had Mitch Trubisky there. You had Justin Fields. You know, bringing back Russ, it's better than what you had. But when you've had a lot of crappy options post Big Ben, it doesn't mean that you have this wonderful option that you need to break the bank for. Now, it's only 3 years, depending on how much guaranteed money. Could it really be like a 2-year deal? I get it. But if Russell Wilson, he's going to make the playoffs this year. If they lose again in the first round, what's the point of bringing him back? Because it's been the same old crap then that it's been, even when Ben was there, since the 2016 season. You win all these games. You're never below 500. Tomlin's always in the playoffs. And then, come postseason time, you're out in the what? Like, well, I can't believe I'm saying this. This is a take. But you can't dispute it. And I think this will annoy Steelers fans. I'm sure there'll be some Steeler website that's going to go quote me on this. What the Steelers have been since 2016, they're the Cincinnati Bengals under Marvin Lewis. They're always in the playoffs. They're never bad. They got talent. You know you don't have the quarterback. And you always lose wild card weekend. Stu, I know Steelers fans will hear that and they'll be like, shut up. How dare you compare us to the Marvin Lewis Bengals? But since 2016, that regular season, 2016, after that season, they have not won a playoff game. From 2017 to now present date. So, like, would you give Russell Wilson a 3-year deal this offseason without knowing what the guarantees are, but $135 million would be the total value of that contract? Would you do that?
I wouldn't. I also don't know if there's a team that's going to do that. Like, who out there can you realistically see saying, okay, we need Russell Wilson for $45 million a year for 3 years? I don't know. I don't think they're going to have to pay that much for him.
It's a good question. Here's the first team that came to mind. And I don't think this team will end up doing it because I think they're going to go get their quarterback in the draft. Now, I don't think Russ is going to wait that long. So if he does wait, that's different. I don't think he's going to wait till after the draft. But if he did, what happens at the Giants? They bring back Daboll and Shane. I know that you got some dead cat money with Daniel Jones, but you bring back Daboll and Shane, you don't get one of the top 2 quarterbacks that you get in the draft, and then boom, maybe you have to do that. Like, I'm looking around the league, potential Russell Wilson destinations for next year. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but these are the potential destinations. No one in the AFC East. Tua is back with the Dolphins, the Jets, unless Aaron Rodgers retires. But I don't think Rodgers is going to retire. The AFC West. I guess your Raiders are a possibility. It feels like they should have done that last offseason, though, if they were going to do it. But the Raiders are a possibility. The AFC North. I don't think Cleveland would do it. And also, you're paying Deshaun. So, no, I don't think that's going to be the case. AFC South. Tennessee. You looking to make a move? Okay, potentially. The Steichen say I'm already out on Anthony Richardson. So, let's do the Colts. Like, slim pickings here. So, I'll just throw those 3 teams out there. The NFC East, we talked about the Giants. Cowboys already paid Dak. You look at the NFC West. All those teams, right? The Cardinals got Kyler. The 49ers got Brock. The Rams, I don't think Stafford's retiring. And the Seahawks, that's not going to be a reunion. And I don't think you move on from Geno Smith to bring back Russell Wilson. You got to go younger there. The NFC North, all those quarterbacks, Vikings, if they don't bring back Darnold or if Darnold's not their starter, then it's going to be McCarthy, Packers with Love, Lions with Goff, and the Bears. Caleb Williams is going to be the starting quarterback next year. The NFC South, Panthers, I guess, a possibility. But if I'm Russ, I'd rather take significantly less to stay in Pittsburgh and be the starter than go to Carolina and compete with Bryce Young. The Saints have Derek Carr, even though they should get rid of him, but I don't think he's going to New Orleans. That team has really nothing. The Bucs know and the Falcons know. So, yeah, there's not a lot of teams there. You bring up a good point. Yeah, you could say, okay, I want this, and then the Steelers could say, hey, go try to find that from somewhere else, and maybe we get one sucker. But let's say if you do get a sucker to bite, like let's say the Saints. I'm just throwing it out there. I know they have Carr right now, and I'm not sure off the top of my head how many more years are left of that contract, but I'm sure there's some dead cap money still tied there. But let's just say the Saints are the team. Is that a team you leave Pittsburgh for some extra money if it's all about what Russ said was trying to go win another Super Bowl? No. So I get it. The Steelers are just a good situation. If I'm Russ, I don't think you're probably right, Stu. You're probably not getting $45 million a year. But it's funny that the Kirk Cousins model was kind of thrown out there, according to Andrew Filipponi, on 3 years and $45 million a year for Russell Wilson. Quite frankly, how can we even say that right now? Don't get me wrong. Russ has been better than what we thought he was going to be. But it's not as if he's lighting the field on fire. It's not like he's going out there and he's sizzling hot. He's been serviceable. He's been competent. He's been good. The Steelers are winning games. But it's not as if you look at Russell Wilson and you go, oh, that Russell Wilson in Seattle is back still. At least I don't when I end up watching him.
No, he's not on the Pro Bowl level. He's been good, but he hasn't been great where he's warranting a contract like that.
Yeah. So I honestly, I think this is a match that you could continue it for another year. Maybe 2 years most. I don't think you need to go more than 2 years if you're Pittsburgh. But I do think a lot of it is, are you going to win a playoff game this year? Because if you don't win a playoff game this year, then it's been the same old crap since the 2016 season where they're really good from a record standpoint, but then they don't win. And doesn't there have to be some inclination by Mike Tomlin to just go get his next guy? They've never got the next guy. You can't tell me it's Kenny Pickett. They picked him at pick 20. It was the only quarterback to go in the first round of the draft. They weren't moving up to get him. They had him fall right there at 20. So doesn't there have to be some desire from Tomlin to go get your guy? You know who would be great? I would have loved to have seen, and I've said this before, Baker. I know Baker's in Tampa, just got the new deal. But if you put Baker in Pittsburgh, that's a team that I think could go win 2 playoff games. I really do believe that. Baker's a gamer, man. Baker's a baller. And look what he did last. He won a playoff game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know he has Evans. I know he has Godwin at the time. But you look at this team, all right, you got Pickens, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, solid. You got Freiermuth, and you got an excellent defense. It's almost like, you know what, Stu? The Bucs and the Steelers have a baby, all right? You have a baby, and if you merge the best of both those teams, I think that would be a team that could go win a Super Bowl. But the Bucs on their own aren't going to win a Super Bowl with Baker, and the Steelers on their own with Russ, how they're currently constructed, aren't going to win a Super Bowl either. All righty, we'll take a timeout. Let me tell you that this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com, not available in all states. We will get to 3 things to watch tonight for the Eagles and the Commanders game, and we'll also tell you who our dependable player of the week is when we come on back. But update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the Commanders and Eagles battle for sole possession of first place tonight in the NFC East. Philly has a half-game lead in the division at 7-2. With 5 straight wins, Washington is at 7-3 after falling to the Steelers on Sunday. Saquon Barkley has been nothing short of terrific for the Eagles thus far. He's 9 yards shy of his 4th 1,000-yard season. He'll face a defense that is 28th in the league against the run, and Commanders head coach Dan Quinn said stopping Barkley is a tough task.
He can take somebody's leverage and try to work outside because he has the speed to go and then the ability to spin or to change leverage. And so that, to me, is a factor in itself, the ability to start and stop, with that explosive nature that he has and try to break somebody's leverage. So the tackling, the angles, you want to make sure that point is really hammered home.
Marshawn Lattimore's Washington debut will have to wait another week as he remains out with a hamstring injury. Austin Seibert's hip has been a concern for the Commanders, and Zane Gonzalez has been promoted from the practice squad. Harrison Butker suffered a knee injury in practice this week. He's headed to injured reserve, with Spencer Schrader signed off the Jets practice squad. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. –
5
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The Dependable Player of the Week is sponsored by Depend and the Prostate Cancer Foundation, reminding you that health is a long game and screening for prostate cancer is easier than ever. Learn more at depend.com. This week's player is Commanders QB Jaden Daniels, the second overall pick in this year's draft. Currently has 2,147 passing yards, 9 passing touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. Let's get to the game tonight. I don't feel confident, like very confidently in saying it, but I will say that the Eagles win. I love Austin Eckler scoring a touchdown, which almost makes me think it's too good to be true at plus 200. And you look at, obviously, Austin Eckler's numbers in primetime games. I feel like this dude always gets not only a touchdown, but a lot of times multiple touchdowns. So Austin Eckler, anytime touchdown at plus 200 is definitely a play for me. Short week, people think these games usually are sloppy. I think there's going to be a good amount of points in this one. I would take the over. I think we are going to see high, in the high 20s, maybe the low kind of 30s. So that's kind of the game that I anticipate tonight. But really, when you look at it, I think there's 3 things to examine here. The biggest is Nick Sirianni. We are going to be looking at this game with Nick Sirianni through the lens of how do we view him as a football coach. The Eagles can win this game tonight, and you can still have a flat opinion on Nick Sirianni because he's done that before, the Jacksonville game. The Eagles could also win tonight, and maybe you get some confidence restored in Nick Sirianni. But if the Eagles lose this game tomorrow, it's almost as if it's low-hanging fruit at this point because we've beaten this horse so many times. But if they lose this game tonight, which is on the table against the Commanders, but if they lose this game tonight against a 7-3 Commanders team and the Eagles are 7-2, I would be very surprised if we're talking about the Eagles tomorrow in a way where it's not just lambasting this head coach. So that's the Sirianni factor. Then, I do believe the next 2 storylines are centered around the Commanders. Because, yes, if the Eagles win tonight, even if they win in spite of Sirianni, you could still feel like, hey, Sirianni will eventually mess it up. But with not only just the NFC, but all of football, not having a lot of great teams, the Eagles get to 8-2 tonight. I know they were 10-1 last year, and they crapped the bed down the stretch. But if they get to 8-2, with how we don't have a lot of great teams this year, you could say, okay, the Eagles could win in spite of their head coach. So that is the Eagles factor in this. I then think once you get past Sirianni, the next 2 storylines are really Washington Commander related. This is a huge spot. We saw Daniels, right, up against the Bengals. That was the first big national coming out party for Jaden Daniels. In terms of him being in the NFL, obviously we know he won a Heisman at LSU. But that Week 3 performance up against the Bengals in that primetime slot, he was sensational. And they took it to Cincinnati. He was 21-23 for 254 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He was just awesome in the game. Also had a rushing touchdown as well. And he led the team in rushing with only 39 rushing yards in that one. And that throw down the right sideline and right in the end zone from that game was absolutely awesome. This is just another spot for Daniels to really assert himself as the best young quarterback in the league. I'm talking about from this past draft class, to be fair. Because Drake May's fine in New England. He's looking good. But don't got a lot around him. Caleb Williams, this is coaching malpractice what's going on right now with Caleb Williams. And let's just be real. DJ Moore hates Caleb Williams right now. We all know that. Bo Nix has been serviceable. McCarthy's not playing. Michael Penix Jr. not playing as well. But this is a moment for Jaden Daniels where you start to put yourself in not only obviously being the best rookie quarterback in this draft class, but there's also, hey, look at recent history with what Stroud did. I heard Ron Jaworski say the other day on Sports Radio 94 WIP in Philly that he's never seen a rookie quarterback better than Jaden Daniels. Where everyone last year told me, hey, the best rookie season ever by a quarterback was C.J. Stroud. So this is very C.J. Stroud-esque what Jaden Daniels is doing right now. And then when we get into the other storyline here, I really do think there's a lot to gain. A lot to gain for Cliff Kingsbury. Because Cliff Kingsbury and his status in the league right now, it's a very fascinating one. We've seen a lot of coaches get one opportunity, and it has some good moments, has some bad moments, but they never get hired again, right? That's a head coach. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury, it's out of the realm of possibilities that he's a head coach in the league next year. And when you look back at his time in Arizona, I get it, the numbers are the numbers. He was 28-37-1. And that season in 2021 got off to a great start, and they ended up being 11-6, but you saw some signs of weakness, obviously, in the second half of that season. But not that 28-37-1 makes me think his next job he's going to be a great coach, but what are usually the hiring trends in this league? Offensive-minded coach, offensive-minded coach, offensive-minded coach. So with what Sirianni, or with what Kingsbury's been able to do in year one with Jaden Daniels, it's been so stupendous so far that I do kind of think he's going to get interviews. You know, I expect Cliff Kingsbury to get interviews this upcoming offseason. And it's just easy to put it together. And it's a little out of the box, but not that far out of the box. When you look at the Bears, and you always expect the Bears to not do the obvious. Stu, for example, if I just said to you, 3 obvious names for the Bears to hire this offseason, I think we could all say those 3 obvious names. Go ahead. Let's see if you can get it.
Mr. Bill Belichick would be one of them for sure. Mike Vrabel would be another. See, the third one, I don't know.
You're not that in on Ben Johnson?
No, yeah, Ben Johnson. I was thinking of established guys, but yeah, you're right. The hot offensive coordinator, I think Ben would be in that list. Kingsbury could find his way into that, though.
And that's the thing, because the Bears never do the obvious. If the Bears' job, assuming it opens, right? It's got to open. If it doesn't open, oh, geez. You know, Bears fans, just give up. All right, don't even show up. Don't even wear your Bears gear. Give up if they bring back this guy Eberflus. But if it does open, like a competent franchise would say, hey, Belichick. Hey, Mike Vrabel. Okay, not those 2 guys. They're defensive-minded coaches. All right, let's go get Ben Johnson. Right? People are saying Ben Johnson's the next Bill Walsh. What? I heard Rex Ryan say that on SportsCenter. Throw out Bill freaking Walsh. You know, there is part of me when everyone's telling me someone's the guy. It hasn't been a head coach. And I have no reason to root against Ben Johnson. I love what he's doing with the Lions. But also when you kind of pick and choose, the commander's job, I don't want it. When everyone thought you were going there. And then you go back to be the OC with the Lions. And it's almost as if I want to root for you to fail. Because there's a little arrogance there. Which he deserves the arrogance, if we're being fair. But when everyone's saying this guy's a slam dunk, I feel like the guy never ends up living up to the hype. But if the Bears don't hire one of those 3, all right, probably then the next name is Kingsbury. And Kingsbury, has a relationship with Caleb Williams because he was on the USC staff last year. He was an offensive consultant, analyst, whatever you want to call it, with the USC Trojans last year. So that, to me, is something where I kind of look at it and I go, all right, you're making a pro Caleb Williams hire where even though you look at that move, you could probably get better, and there's still a big question on what we will get out of Cliff Kingsbury in his second chapter. But it is one of those moves where you kind of make it known to anyone in that locker room, especially with the reporting that the veterans were out on Caleb Williams and they contemplated Tyson Bagent starting, that, hey, we made a move to really go support the quarterback. And we made a move where the guy coming in is a Caleb Williams guy. So period, stop if you want to not be all in on this guy with Caleb Williams. So those are the three things I look at tonight with the game. Sirianni, Jaden Daniels, and then Cliff Kingsbury. And also, can I be fair here too? If the Commanders win tonight, let's throw some more respect on Dan Quinn's name. I love Dan Quinn. He was the coach of 28-3. I love him. Love him. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. One of the best moments of my life. But Dan Quinn is a good football coach. And he's displayed that this year. And if he wins this game tonight, it's going to be tough to not give him the Coach of the Year award at the end of the year. And even if the Commanders lose and they get to 7-4, they're scheduled the rest of the way after this week. Even if they lose tonight and they're 7-4, Cowboys, Titans, Saints, Eagles, Falcons, and Cowboys. Like, there is no way. I don't see a way outside of a Jaden Daniels injury, which would be terrible. I don't see a way that the Commanders don't make the postseason. You got 3 more wins you get. You could even make the case 1 more win, or 2 more wins, excuse me. You get to 9-8. You're not a lock, but you get to 10-7. There's no way you're not making the postseason. So that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It's already Thursday. Holy smokes. Tomorrow's a football Friday. I remember when it was Tuesday and the lady downstairs that greets us when we walk in said, "Oh, happy Friday." Well, tomorrow she could say happy Friday to me. But I'd like to thank Matt Frevola for stopping by, the Steamroller. Also like to thank Chris Weidman for stopping by as well. Stu, great job. Samter, great job. Each and every one of you, appreciate you chiming on in today. We'll be back tomorrow for a little Football Friday. We got college, we got NFL. We'll recap the game that's going to happen tonight. Join me if you want. Responsibly. Austin Eckler, +200 anytime touchdown. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.